Hey everybody, Brandon here. I've got my wonderful guest Bailey.
Hi guys, what's up?
Uh, this is really exciting because I have been waiting for this stream ever since we got it figured out. And
Same.
yeah, as soon as I found out about Bailey's book, I was like, I need to have her on and talk about it. So um, we've already got some wonderful people in the chat, and I wanted to say hey to them: Zalu Toy Hunter, Life Anime Gaming. I pinned the link to the Amazon books for your book in the chat and in the
That's
description, so
awesome.
people can find it. Chris said his copy is coming Monday. Mine should get here sometime today. I was hoping it would get here before doing this, but it'll get here today.
I'm still flattered nonetheless. I just like a quick shout out to those who are part of our little YouTube community and whatnot. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being just so not only accepting of me being a part of this, part of your guys' world, but just the fact that you guys don't even know me and you're just going out of your way to find this and order multiple copies. And it just really, like, I can't even put it into words how thankful I am. And I'm just so excited to be here and to talk Star Wars with you. That's always going to get me excited. So thank you guys. From the bottom of my heart, just thank you, because believe me, in my everyday life, nobody thinks I'm as cool as you guys do. So thank you.
Hey there, Gilster. How's it going? John from Super Awesome Geek Show is saying hey. Josh Anderson. Howdy, folks. Offworld Adam. Chris 1000th Ghost. Josh says hey, Brandon and Bailey. I'm super excited. This is and especially after the stream last night, talking about some of the Clone Wars stuff and
Oh my gosh, yes.
I feel like
And that's what I have in the background, by the way, that my beloved Clone Wars poster from the movie.
I love it.
Because the only poster you can get of the show is season 7, and I mean that's fine, but like season 7 is personally not my favorite, so it's like that's the best one to go. And plus they're wearing that armor that you and I talked about. I love so much.
Absolutely. Mark, how's it going?
Hello there.
Paul, I set my alarm for this. Y'all better be entertaining.
We will, Paul.
Dave, Vintage Toy Rush, how's it going? All right, so I wanted to get into it right away. So you're an author and you've got this book coming out, and yes. I am absolutely in love with it. I haven't read it yet, but there we go. I'll if you don't want to do that. If you want to show the cover off again.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Seen it.
This is it. It's unbelievably surreal to have it in my hands, because I'm telling you guys, this is obviously my first thing, so I knew nothing about how the process goes, but I knew about this coming since last August. So to finally see it and have it in my hands, and to just, people are sending me screenshots of finding it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and it's just, I can't describe the feeling. It doesn't feel real. It feels like a dream. And, like I said, this was like 7 months of waiting, and you're in the dark most of the time. Because I would just get like updates every, like maybe once a month, maybe every 2 months. And for the longest time, I would forget about it. Like, it just like, oh my gosh, like this is never going to happen. And it's here. So it's amazing. And I hope I can do it more.
Yeah. That's absolutely awesome, and it's got to be great to see something that you worked on for so long.
Oh yeah, for sure. And this was like a total accident. I went into this expecting nothing, because when the idea came to me, you hear like authors like J.K. Rowling, all these big authors who have created these franchises. They say they've been rejected so many times, and so when I sent it, I was expecting nothing. And even if I got rejected, I would still keep going. Like, I was very adamant about that. Like, no matter what, I'm going to make this happen. And so to submit it to this company and to get a phone call 3 days later to say they're going to do it, I was in total shock. I was like, are you for real? Like, yeah, like, so I'm extremely lucky. I would say that I'm incredibly lucky and incredibly blessed. And I really hope I can look back on this one day and be like, yeah, this was like the stepping stone into something great. Because if I could put my name on a Star Wars book, like that would, I could die happy.
Yeah.
I could already die happy now, just like having this, but yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I can tell you're super happy about it, and that's it's really nice to see someone in our community have something like that where they're super happy about it.
Oh yeah.
It's a really, like, I've only known you for a little bit, but to see that you've reached this milestone and gotten something like that out there, it's really cool to see people have those achievements met.
Thank you. We've interrupted your afternoon now. Well, it's only 9:06 here in Tatooine, aka Arizona, so I would hope he's not napping yet.
Everybody's just saying hey to each other. Chris said sorry he's at work, so he doesn't have links for everyone. That's okay. Yeah, it's 9 a.m. And thank you so much for coming on. I said it was okay if we made it later, but you said 9 a.m. worked, so
yeah, no, I got up so early because I'm like, let's do this.
Salacious. Hello to Brandon and Bailey.
Hi, Salacious.
Writing a book and having it published is a huge achievement. Yep.
Thank you. And you will be getting a signed copy, sir. I'll be over at Paul's soon and I'll be signing it. I think we're doing it live, so I got you. Thank you so much.
Ooh, cool. Aaron's here. How's it going? Aaron says congrats to Bailey.
Thank you.
Mark is wondering about a signed copy.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, Paul is going to be my guy in terms of, getting these distributed, so absolutely.
Awesome. Rural Farm Boy, how's it going?
How you do? Hello there. Yeah, it's I can't describe it. I can't put it into words what it feels like. It's just I can't. It's unreal. And it's an amazing feeling. So yes, absolutely. It's wonderful.
Tina's sending love. Mr. Rez is here. How's it going? The whole community is behind you.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, thank you. The YouTube community is just so awesome and so welcoming, and I love being a part of it. I really do. It's wonderful. Because I think most people, like, when they think of, oh, like, you're like this uber obsessed Star Wars nerd, they're immediately kind of turned off. Like, they think we're all like insane. But it's really just, no, there are just wonderful people out there, very kind and welcoming and accepting people in this community. And I wish people knew more about that instead of just assuming that we're all just insane and nitpicky and.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we're just a bunch of goobers.
Yeah, I've met so many kind people that are the most generous and genuine people while doing this online, and it's an awesome feeling to meet everyone. Silly.
Oh, really? That is so cool. Wow. I mean, I can hardly, I can't even fathom seeing my name in this work in a local, just it being here in the US. But to think it's like overseas, I can't, like, it's just like I said, I can't put it into words. So that's awesome. That is so incredible. Thank you.
Seth Gallinorian Saber, how's it going? Yeah, that is awesome. Smirking Bear is saying, hey.
Morning.
We're all goobers and geeks.
Yeah. Proud old goober. Yeah. Goobers, yep.
But yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's quite the process to have, that done. And I I wanted to get a little bit more of your story as an author and how you started with your writing, and just the whole process behind the book.
Absolutely. I wish I could say that I went through this long journey of doing this, but like I said, my experience with it has just been so just uh, I've been incredibly lucky. So like growing up, I've always been really good at writing, like in school. Like I would always I have it somewhere, but I've gotten like awards growing up of my writing, just like the stories I would write in class and whatnot. I didn't really think much of it. It was just like, yeah, I write because I have to. I want to get a good grade. I didn't really think much of it. And then the idea of actually putting something out there into the world didn't occur to me until last summer, when I, really got into the Clone Wars, and, a good friend of mine introduced me to the world of these Star Wars expanded universe, these Legends books, and I started reading them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. Like, it just kind of like it came to me like, I want to be a part of that. I want to do this. So, I did the research. I researched into, in general, how does one, do this? And, and I, through my research, people were saying, you gotta, get connected. You gotta put your name out there, your requests to multiple companies. You find one that you feel the most comfortable with. You send in, your work, your manuscript, and, it just really just outlined the whole process. And so I knew that I couldn't just like go right out the gate and be like, hey, look at my Star Wars ideas, or, and I had original story ideas, but like, I'm an educator in real life. And when this occurred to me, I realized that, I wouldn't have the time and energy into really putting like a whole novel together, because if they want a completed manuscript, you can't just submit an idea. You have to have the work ready to go, ready to be reviewed. And so I kind of looked at, the story is based off my real life dog, Leia. So I kind of looked at her, and it just occurred to me, why not start with a kid's book? It's something I could easily write. And, it's when I was researching, other authors say, that's kind of like your safe bet. Like if you want just an in the writing world and becoming an author, um, creating a children's story that could be, children's stories are timeless. I'm sure all of us could think of a story that we read as a kid that still sticks with us to this day, and it appeals to a larger audience. So I wanted to be smart about this. I didn't want to um, put a whole novel together and put it in. It takes a lot longer for these companies to read a novel, just because they're looking through it. So the idea of writing a children's book, I was like, okay, I'll just start this. This was kind of like my experiment. Like, let me write this, see where it goes, and go from there. And so I reached out to multiple companies, and Fulton Books, that's the company that published this book, was the one that just was like the kindest. They were very genuine in their emails. I was very surprised by the responses I got. They were just like, just give us your work, just give us your work, just give us your work. And they were very demanding. And, I didn't want to put my work into people that I didn't think were, it was very clear to me that some companies, they just see you as like, we need to make a profit, give us your work. Where Fulton was more like, hey, like whenever you have the time, we would love to look at your work. And they were just very informative and very genuine. And so I submitted it. I wrote this story in 2 days, and I was just like, you know what, this is just an experiment. I'm just going to submit this, see where this goes. And then 3 days later, I get the phone call at work that they want it. And it was just like, I was so shocked, because like I said, when I was researching, a lot of authors said that they would get rejected, and they would get discouraged, and it would take them a while to bounce back and try again. But I got it in the first try, and just like that, the whole process started. I got a contract, and they told me, unfortunately, because of COVID, the publication, there's going to be delays, so it's going to be a little bit before I have it in my hands. But that was that, and yeah, I feel like I'm just incredibly lucky, and I hope in the future I'm able to put in more bigger, larger works in, and I hope it goes somewhere. And if not, then I'm okay with just this, because not a lot of people can say they did this and it went somewhere. But yeah, that was basically the process. The idea occurred to me. I did the research on the process. I put my name out there, picked the company that I felt was the most genuine, and not like give us your work. And that was that. So yeah, I don't have an interest. It's not really an interesting story there. Like I'm sure most authors do, where they're like, I've had this idea since I was like 9, and all these trials and tribulations. But it was pretty straightforward. So, and I know that you mentioned in your live stream that you have something in the works, and I would love to help you along the way. Because that is nice when you've made it this far. You can be like, you know what, I can help someone else achieve that same dream. So yeah, that
Awesome.
was it.
That's really cool. I can just hearing you talk about it, I can tell how happy you are about it too.
Yeah. Hi, Jacob. Yeah, he's the man responsible for getting me into the Legends books and whatnot. So Goober for life. Oh yeah, I've always been one. Always. Thank you. Such a cute, yeah. That was pretty cool. Is throughout the process, they would send me samples of it. I didn't illustrate, someone else did, and it was nice to be able to. I had a lot of say in how it was put together. So that's something I did forget is, throughout the process, they do reach out to you and they're like, hey, which illustrator do you want? And they would send you samples of their artwork, and I would get to approve it, or if I wanted something adjusted, how I wanted the font to look. It was really cool too. It wasn't like I signed the rights away and they left me in the dark, the whole time. No, they did reach out and they were like, hey, like, how do you want the pages to look? It was really cool to have a hand in that. So thank you. I'm glad it turned out cute.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the cover, and I can't wait to get it. I love the blue, the green, and then that like dark color.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I even down to the colors. I was like, these are the colors I would like. Stay away from these colors. And let me tell you, the real life Leia she lives up to her namesake. So she's very much that rebellious, like, what are you gonna do about it? Type attitude. So yeah, it really matches her perfectly.
Awesome. Tina started a book a long time ago, still on a 3.5 floppy drive. No way to access it.
Yeah, I say do it. I mean, that's what I would tell anybody is if you got something, put it out there. I mean, it's always worth a shot. And that's just the attitude I went in when I submitted it. I was like, you know what? There's a very good chance this might not work out, but I just say, just do it. Just put it out there, because if we couldn't already tell from the entertainment industry, they are running out of creative juices and creative ideas, original ideas. So if you got it, please put it out there, give it a try, because who knows, like, it could become something so huge. Like, I'm sure George did not expect Star Wars to take off into the heights that it did. So please submit it. And that was something that a lot of people told me when I got the news was, oh yeah, I have something. And it's just like, well, do it, you know, like just what's the worst that can happen? I mean, even if it's you get rejected, you know, you could always just keep going. There are so many companies out there. Do it, please do it, because we need fresh ideas. We need, you know, more interesting books to buy. Please, yeah, if you still have that disc, please submit it.
Smirking was saying also has a fantasy story. Started in high school, 10 years later.
Please submit it. Submit it.
Yeah, Sleeping's getting ready to go to Disney, so that's really exciting.
Oh, lucky. I want to go to Galaxy's Edge so bad. So bad. I have yet to have the chance, and oh my gosh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, he's going with Space Buns, his fiance, and I'm
That's
super
awesome.
excited for him. It is like the spring break time where it's going to be hard to do stuff, but still, it's an amazing. I haven't been to Disney World. I've been to Disneyland, but I went for 2 days and it was absolutely amazing. So
I would just be happy just to like, even if I couldn't be, just to be in that ambiance, just to be there. And I'm sure you could attest to this. Is I would just be so happy. I'd be probably bawling, you know, just between the soundtrack and seeing like the Falcon. That I would just be happy just to be there.
mm-hmm. Cold, cloudy day. This part of the West Coast, making a fire and going to do burning yard work. Yeah. Josh.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, how's it going? John Joker, how's it going? John Joker is an awesome person within the community and uh, very supportive of everyone. So I'm glad he
Thank
stopped.
you.
Zalu, what's up? Uh, Super excited. This is awesome. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I said, it's you guys are being very gracious because, like I said, in my day-to-day life, when I mentioned it, like I currently work at a school, and even then, like people are like, "Oh, that's cool." Like it's like not a big deal. So like to see this, it's like really nice. Yeah, if you could, and I think this works in like even like the movie and TV industries, if you could appeal to that larger audience, if you could hit the ground running with something that, you know, would be appealing to all ages, your chances of success is going to be higher. Where, you know, I think because I know people who have, this wasn't self-published. I did decide to go with a company just for the sake of advertising and whatnot, because self-publishing is a lot of work. And unfortunately, unless somebody is really in the market to like buy your story or look for your story, it is hard. So that would be another piece of advice I'd give to someone is, you know, put something out there that would be appealing to all ages. And once your foot is in the door, like now that I have a foot in the door, now I feel a little more comfortable, you know, putting something else out there.
Right. I can't imagine how intimidating it was, but it sounds like
I didn't think much of it, honestly. I was just, that's just, I don't know. I would be a really good Jedi of just like, you know, I'm like it is what it is. And I put it in there. I'm like, yeah, I might get rejected, but I'm not going to stop because like, I know like, and I feel like, you know, if, especially all these people that have, you believed in that story, you put in the time, and it takes a lot of time to write. Okay. Like writing is not something that is willy-nilly. Like you can just, it's like, no, it takes a lot of time and energy. And if you believed in it, somebody else will. And but please put it out there. Please give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out the first time, keep trying. Because, you know, anybody who has reached that amount of success, like, you know, George Lucas and Everyone else that's created a franchise, it didn't take off right away, but it has. So just give it a try. Thank you, Mom. That is my mother, yes.
Hey there.
Hello there. Being a Gemini, I'm easily distracted and never finish one. Well, the Scorpio is saying, do it. Do it, as Palpatine would say.
Oh, cool.
Oh, see, that is something that I love to hear is, I know a lot of people with kids who are buying it for their kids, and I don't think I'm ready to handle that, cuteness and sweetness. So that's awesome.
Hobbies Creations, how's it going? Hi and well done. Absolutely. Ryan, how's it going?
I'm here and I'm late. It's all right.
Oh, asking sleeping.
Ah.
Yeah.
Fear of rejection.
Yeah.
It's as what I really like about Star Wars is the wisdom behind it, and I really liked Yoda's quote to Luke Skywalker, and just like failure is the greatest teacher. So rejection and failure shouldn't be something we're afraid of, because it just opens so many doors. So I agree. I think it does stop a lot of people.
Writing stories and such, but I'm more an artist and painter myself. That's where my strong suits are.
I love people who are like artists. Like I wish I could do that. And that's part of my collection is I like going on Etsy and buying people's prints, and I love supporting people like that. People who are just fans and who are just passionate about their work, and it's wonderful work. I mean, it really is. Like fans create some of the best content.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. John says the magazines work also. Asimovs and such. If you have a sci-fi slant, submit a 5 to 10 page short story to them. Cool. Yeah, and that's stuff that I have no idea about. One of my friends from college, she does writing stuff and wanted to get into publishing and everything like that, but that's way beyond me. And
and writing for those magazines, it's such great practice too. And when I did my research, like I know like a lot of people who are published Star Wars authors, they did say like, hey, fan fiction or writing short stories for magazines are amazing practice and a good way to get feedback from people. It's a good gauge on how people receive it. So yeah, absolutely. That's another great outlet.
The first door wasn't yours to open, move on to the next. There's always a next.
There's always a next. It's another one of my favorite quotes from Jedi Fallen Order is failure is not the end. There's always something else. You always have a choice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. And that's how a lot of these authors that get to write these extended universes and comic books, that's how they get started, is they just are writers for these, they write articles and people are like, hey, I like what you have to say. Do you want to do this? Would you like to make something for us? So yeah, absolutely.
Bailey, articulate a short synopsis of the premise of the story, please.
So the best way to describe it is Leia is literally the story of me adopting Leia and her first few months with me. And I wrote this story because, she was the biggest positive, we all could say that 2020 was an absolute horrendous year for many reasons for a lot of people. It was a big downer. So I wrote this story, and I think I wrote it on the back too, is because there's something very sweet about writing a story from a dog's perspective, because when we look at animals, you know, they don't see the world like we do. They don't get bogged down by the same things that we do. So I think that I wrote this story with the intention of, you know, I hope this, you know, really touches a lot of people. As someone who works with kids, I know that their pets were a great source of comfort and joy for them during very difficult times in their life. I know with adults, you know, we have service animals. I really wanted to tap into something that I think a lot of people can relate to, is, you know, when things are just going horribly wrong, when we don't see that light at the end of the tunnel, we could always there's always something to turn to, and for most of us, that is our pets, that is our animals. And that's what it is, you know, it's the story of how we came together. But at one point, you know, there is a point where I am actually a character in the story, and you know, at many times throughout 2020, there were so many times where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, how am I gonna get out of this, you know? And Leia would just be like, you know, I don't understand why you're crying, Master. Like, you know, you're giving me a great life, you know? So that's the best way I would describe it. It's a story of us coming together and just her impact on me. And I wrote it, you know, I like I said, I wrote it because I felt that was a story that I think a lot of people would like to see coming out of a year like that. Because let me tell you, as someone who has taught younger grades, you know, third, fourth graders, first graders, some of these children's stories are downers. So I wanted to write something that was just uplifting and relatable. Yeah. So that's the best way I would describe it.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to read it. And I've got a niece that's in 5th grade, so I'm excited to show it to her too.
Oh, I am too. I hope she likes it. They'll sell eventually. I mean, there's always going to be someone who is interested in what you have to say. And that is something that caught me by surprise when I really started getting into like just fandom in general. Is I think a lot of people, you know, and I'm thinking of that comment from last night's live stream about like, I'm just lurking. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people do that. Like, we read people's stories, we look at the blogs, we listen in on live streams, but I think a lot of people are afraid to give their input or like join that conversation because they think, you know, nobody's going to care what I have to say. But believe me, there is always going to be someone that's like, I totally get what you're saying, or like, hey, I'd never thought of it that way. So yeah, someone's going to be interested in what you have to give and sell. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is like, you know, I can share my crazy with someone else. So yeah, they'll sell.
Ryan saying failure is your greatest teacher. That's a great quote. Yes, it is. Just waiting to vlog them on my channel and archive them into my portfolio. Mm-hmm. Is awesome. John says my dad stopped and watched a bit here. He said he's ordering the book now.
That's amazing. Like, your dad doesn't even know who I am, and he's like buying my work. That's awesome. Wow. I'm just so lucky. I'm incredibly blessed.
Miss my dogs so much. I would love another, but I'm not home long enough, and that would not be fair to them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a wonderful large lab husky mix named Coco, and my niece named her because she's brown with the frosted, like white tips on her paws. So Coco, yeah.
I grew up with a little Coco myself, and she's still hanging. She's a senior dog now, but yeah, that's adorable.
Hey, Scuba.
Hello there.
Red 5 Designs. How's it going? And I don't know if you've seen Bailey, but Red 5 is doing, it's like the book is the size of my torso, but it's all of the vintage Star Wars figures and their card backs and everything.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
like a $150 book that's got everything, and the pictures in it are life size to, like, I mean, it shows the card back in its full size, and yeah, so they
I
can.
love hardbacks. And then I know Paul does too. Like, I think that's the appeal to a lot of us when we start collecting these figures is we love the artwork that goes with it.
Can't wait for us all to be in the Joker family channel live stream. Nice. Yeah, John's just getting his channel started up and getting ready to start doing
Oh,
live.
congratulations.
And he donated an Iron Man hot toy to Sleeping Collectibles giveaway that he was doing for reaching 1,000 subscribers. So John's a great person in the community, and lucky to have him. Ghost Animation, how's it going? Is Coco a big fat lazy lab? No, she's more husky than lab, and she's not lazy. She's very energetic and very stubborn, and like her mental capacity is not very high. She's a very stunted dog. She's probably like 3.5, but she's very puppy-like still.
Those are the best types of dogs, where it doesn't matter how old they are, they still have that, joy to them. And I can say that those are my favorite types of adults too. I love nerdy adults because there's that childlike quality of them. If they're just so, we're all just so excited to see these toys. Like, it's pretty cool. Yeah, and look where Mr. King is now. He doesn't have to lift a finger anymore. Those are the best, and I think that's like, we love a good underdog story too. We love that, like, where they just, they have a product and it's not well received at first, and then it turns into something bigger than them, and that's going to be his legacy. Like, that's what's awesome is, to all these people who are hesitant to put their work out there, you could be leaving a legacy that you can't even imagine. Especially with this Leia book, like, if this becomes like a kid's like favorite story or a source of comfort, then I could become one with the Force. Like, I've done my job, like, it's awesome.
Paul.
Woohoo! I'm excited, Paul.
Everybody's saying hey to each other.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you.
Richard.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That is really sweet. That's how you chose to spend your time. Awesome. Thank you.
Jacob. Oh, that's cool. I saw the Gargoyles figures.
Oh yeah, he was. I felt so bad because he was trying to tell. He was all excited for it, and I'm like, I know nothing about that. So, like, he had to like explain it to me. But yeah, I know he's very excited.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I love Paul's dogs. They are the biggest goobers, and I just love how when it's between the two of them, there's like no love between the two whatsoever. There's definitely that sibling rivalry going on. So I love them. They're adorable. They're the biggest dorks. The monkey lizard. Quite he doesn't pay rent. Yep.
Absolutely. They're the people that I've met from even other people's streams that have sent me stuff just to help a fellow collector out. It's pretty amazing. Chris, 1000th Ghost. I don't know if you saw the video, but he sent me those signed Star Wars prints.
Yes.
And I'm not usually a very emotional person, and that did make me cry.
Oh yeah, when Jacob gave me the Luminara Unduli signed photo for Christmas, it definitely stirs up some emotion. Like, oh my gosh, like that's probably what the biggest thing you could give to any collector is anything that's signed. That's just yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. During one of Salacious's stream, I don't know how he got on the topic, but I clicked in to watch him play Star Wars Battlefront 2, and somebody mentioned cat armor, and it's a real thing. And they've got, you can go on Etsy and find armor for for different animals, and
That's so funny because one of the jobs I've had in the past is working for PetSmart, and there is cat armor is a thing. Like when you're handling cats, would have to wear gloves that go up to here, so it's like I'm not surprised that exists.
Gianni's asking.
I hope so. I mean, they haven't. I will say this. I've learned more about where my book is at from other people than the company itself. So I think it should go international. They did tell me that right now it's exclusively Barnes & Noble, and I would think Barnes & Noble and Amazon, and I would think they would ship internationally. And they told me like for retailers, that would be like later, like it's still like being distributed. So I think so. I would hope so.
Just sitting back and enjoying the live. Congrats again. So cool.
Thank you.
Oh, he's saying he did find it on the UK site.
Woohoo! That's so awesome that we have so many friends from overseas. What is it?
Is that a cat? Yep, it's a little cat.
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So did you not grow up watching the Gargoyles?
No, I did not. No. So he had to explain it to me, and I think it's on Disney Plus. So I might have to check that out. It's funny because I know he's like into the Ninja Turtles. I didn't grow up with that. So yeah, he's kind of introducing me to things like this growing up.
Cool. Yeah, I have 20 cats, but no armor.
Jesus.
They had armor, it would be like Mad Max. Hey Jackie, how's it going?
Hello there. I'm waiting for someone to say General Kenobi. Honestly.
The armor needs to be for me. Thanks, Mark. All right, so I have some other questions for you, other than being an author and the inspiration of Leia and stuff like that. So, just in general, kind of, what is your Star Wars story? How did you get on Star Wars?
Well, I think like most people, my parents were the ones to introduce me to the original trilogy, back when they were on VHS. And I don't think when they were showing these movies that it would turn into this, where I'm like growing up and getting tattoos and, having all this stuff. But I was just so enamored, with episode 4, 5, and 6. They're just, it's amazing. When you're a kid, you don't really understand why you like it so much. I just knew it was a source of comfort for me. Like once I was introduced to that, I just loved it. I loved all the characters, the story, the wisdom. And let me tell you, I abuse those VHSs. I rewind those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. If I wasn't feeling good, that would be like something I would put on the TV for myself. Or even like on school nights, I would put that on to help me wind down after a day. And I've always loved it. It was in the original trilogy was, that was like my first love into it. And then, I was born in 95. So then like, as I'm growing up, the prequels are coming out, which is my personal favorite era of Star Wars. Like I love the original. I think everyone does. I don't think you can be a true Star Wars fan if you didn't like the original. But the prequels were, I'm seeing these movies, as they're coming out, and I just remember, spending my allowance to like buy the DVDs and like, just like the VHSs, I abused those too. And I know I saw Revenge of the Sith more times than I could count in the movies. That's my out of the, prequels. That is my favorite one. I loved it. I remember going to the library and, checking out the, Revenge of the Sith novelization and like all the little Legends books that were available. I loved it. I loved it so much. And then the Clone Wars came out, and, and I was the right target audience, when those episodes came out, and it just became a part of, my life. I'm pretty sure I freaked out people, because I would have like all these trivia books and whatnot, and my knowledge of Star Wars, I don't know if you've ever like experienced that, but when you're like you're really passionate about talking about something, and you can just see the light just fade. They're just like, oh my god, like what did I get myself into? So it was always a part of me. Star Wars has always been my source of comfort. It would always be one of my favorite things to see when I would go to the Disney parks. And but I never like, got into collecting until, just recently. So it was always there, but I think if there was one good thing that came out of, 2020, it's just it, allowed me to revisit the Clone Wars. And, my good friend Jacob introduced me to the expanded universe, and I'm just like, oh my god, like I felt cheated. Like there is so much to Star Wars. Like there's so much lore, and just all these characters that didn't make it on the screen. There's so much that goes into it. And that's one thing I really like about Galaxy's Edge is if you're a fan like us, like there are so many like holocrons, kyber crystals, and the legacy hill. It's like it's amazing how like a casual fan would have no idea what that is, but it's available to us. So that's how I would describe it. Is Star Wars was a part of my life from a very young age, and I loved it, and I never stopped loving it. And now that now that I know that there's so much more to it, Star Wars has been my go-to. When things get dark in life, like there's always Star Wars. And as an adult, I just appreciate the wisdom from it, and it's so applicable to real life. And then I think the best part is meeting people like you and this community. So yeah, that's my Star Wars story. It's a part of me. I can't imagine life without it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. And that sounds very similar to me. And it was my mom who introduced me to Star Wars, and she worked in a movie theater in an arcade, and she was like 14 or 15 when Star Wars came out. So she got me on it, and now I bet she's probably like, what did I do?
What have I done? Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I'm sure I know, like talking to my family, and like, when the Mandalorian's coming out, and I'm just like, there's that General Kenobi. Sorry for that comment. But when I'm just like going off like, oh my gosh, like Bo-Katan and like Ahsoka Tano, they're just like, I'm just enjoying it. Okay, like they don't understand it. I don't know if you've experienced this, but I know it's like with the younger kids, like the Mandalorian is kind of all they know about Star Wars. And then like when they're like, yeah, like that's like it kind of hurts me a little because there is so much more to it. Like they love Baby Yoda, but I'm like, but there's only like an entire universe of other things going on. So yeah, it's funny how they like, oh, I'm going to introduce my kid to this movie that I like, and then we just exploded.
Yep. Absolutely. Jackie saying when he was young, his first Star Wars movie was Attack of the Clones. That's the one that I remember seeing in the theaters first.
Yes.
I know Phantom Menace was the one that I went to first, but I remember Attack of the Clones.
Same. That was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. I think I was too young for Phantom Menace, and I had to watch that when the DVD came out. But I love it. I don't know why people harp on the prequels so much, but I love them. Yeah. I love them. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mark is multitasking and building his vintage X-Wing.
Oh, yes. I love an X-Wing. You are a bold one. I love, like, just from the dialogue alone, like, how can you not love the prequels?
I love it because of the dialogue, and also it hurts my soul sometimes.
It really, like, if you need a good laugh, it's, like, it's there. But, I think, and Jacob and I were talking about this, I think for the longest time, like, the I love sand sentence was always, like, the most quotable and most made fun of. But I think because of the sequels and the last one, that somehow Palpatine has returned. That just, that is just god awful. Somehow, somebody wrote that. Like, that's just, like, somebody put that to paper. Somehow Palpatine has returned.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I know, like, I feel bad. Like, I love episode 1 too. Like, I really do love all of them. But that is the one that just gets the most, like, abuse, I feel.
Yeah. I watched Brandon's eyes do that over a 6-hour live stream.
Like, glazed over.
We had 2 hours on my stream before I had issues with StreamYard/YouTube. And then we went over to Chris's stream and talked for another 4 hours. And it was just random topics. And he's a history buff. And Luke Cash, one of the people who usually hops in my streams, he's a big history and philosophy person. And they were just bouncing stuff off of each other. And some of it was stuff that I had no idea about. So I just sat there and listened. And I can tell you, I wasn't glazing over. I was really enjoying it.
You're just a fly on the wall. And you know what? I love conversations like that. That's the stuff I like putting on my TV and whatnot, just as background noise. I love listening in to that kind of stuff. So the light's going out. I love that. What have I done?
Yeah.
And that's what have I done? Yeah, I know. They were just, yeah, especially with my dad, he's probably just like, like, yeah, like, I don't think anybody predicted this hyper fixation, to happen.
Too young for Phantom Menace. So you said you were born in 95 and you're a Scorpio.
95. Yeah, so I think that came out in 99, right? So yep. I don't think, I know my parents saw it, and I know they said, like, they had to see it twice, because I think the problem was that these people who really enjoyed the original trilogy, I don't think they just understood the prequels. Like, it's like, okay, these movies are building, we're seeing, like, there is no empire yet. There is, no rebellion yet. We're seeing, like, the beginning of all that. And I think that's what caught people off guard, is they went in there thinking they're going to see 4, 5, and 6 when they're really their own entity, because it was like, Galaxy was a much different place. So yeah, I know, like, I know they left kind of confused, and I think most people say, like, their favorite is, like, the last, that Duel of Fates is, like, their favorite part. But, like, I know, I've seen episode 1, and I've tried to be like, okay, I don't really understand. You know what was so hard to understand, it's a good story, and honestly, I mean, I could live without Jar Jar Binks, but besides that, it's a good movie.
No, have you seen the anti-cheese edits where they cut out the really bad dialogue and they replace Jar Jar with like subtitles?
Oh yeah.
Um, I watched that in college, and now I'm back to enjoying it like I did when I was a kid. But in college, I was feeding on the negativity, and I was like, oh yeah, Jar Jar Binks is stupid. But I loved Jar Jar growing up, and
I think people just took it way too seriously. I know George made it for his kids, and he's based off Goofy, the Disney character, and I really just don't think much of it anymore. I think people just get so, and I think that's the turnoff. And I know Paul and I have discussed this. We call it the fandom menace. Is there is so much negativity that exists. There are people out there that think that they know Star Wars better than George Lucas, and I think that it's just not good. It's not good.
yeah. Hey, Kat, how's it going?
Hello there.
So,
Somehow
yeah,
Palpatine is that is yeah. Somebody wrote that.
and you can
And
almost
somebody
see
had to say it.
Oscar's like pain in having to say it. Like,
Somehow Palpatine is returned.
will there be a sequel book called Kylo, a puppy wrestling between good and bad sides?
God. Yeah. I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest. Like, I accept the sequels for what they are. They're not my cup of tea, though. And I think what's frustrating is like someone who like knows someone like us who knows legends and whatnot, and we know like that Kylo was a character kind of cherry picked from what already exists. That's the thing is that's my kind of grief with the sequels is they could have been 1,000 times better than what we got. Every character had potential to be great, and my grief with it is like people were making decisions as these movies were being made. Like there wasn't like a set story in mind, and I think that's why we're seeing all this discombobulated. There were too many hands in the pot, and I think if I could describe it's like we were making Star Wars like a buffet for everyone to enjoy, when in reality, it's like it's like someone took the keys to Dad's car and they destroyed it. With Star Wars, you have to be delicate. You have to take what's already there, and you have to take what is it that people loved, and you can run with it. So yeah, there's gonna be no Kylo puppies. I'm sorry. To circle back, I don't think so. I feel bad for Leia.
And that's when I talk about the different trilogies. The original trilogy is like perfect in my eyes. I love it. It started the love for everything. I grew up with the prequels, and I mean, because I grew up with it, when you watch it as a kid, you don't notice like the cheesy acting and the cheesy dialogue and stuff. You just see it all as an awesome movie and an experience and everything like that. And then now that I'm a little bit older, I went back and rewatched them, and I'm like, now I'm seeing these little pieces of when these are the clues that they left and everything, and this is, you see how the story is starting to evolve. And then the Force Awakens I really really liked. Got me super excited for Star Wars again, because for several years I didn't go anywhere near Star Wars because I was actually kind of like bullied out of liking it, and I didn't see the Clone Wars TV show. I didn't watch Rebels when it came out. It wasn't until college, when I had some friends who liked Star Wars, that I got back into it. So I really liked The Force Awakens, and I thought that they were going to do a really good job with that. But then it was hard, because I absolutely see where people come from when they're upset that what they did with Star Wars, and not necessarily respecting everything that was put in place.
Yes.
And I understand. I still like them, and I like them for what they are. And as someone who knows some of the EU stories and legends, I'm not super well versed on those. just this past summer, I went back and listened to the Heir the Empire audiobooks,
Mm-hmm.
but and those were fantastic. And some people say that those don't hold up, and I think absolutely the opposite. It I love those books, and I've even loved the new canon
Yeah.
trilogies from Ron. And I the different trilogies do different things for me. So the prequels I
Yes.
see as a really great story that was not um, acted slash written well.
Mm-hmm.
The the sequels for me were great performances and beautiful visuals that weren't
Yeah.
put together well, and so they almost had an opposite kind of
Right.
feeling for me. But I still like I can put The Last Jedi on it and watch it, and even though there are things that upset me, it's a beautiful movie.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh
I
yeah. It's visually very appealing.
yes, yeah, and I think all of the sequel movies are like that, where they like to me they're fun movies to watch. There are parts of them where it's like I don't like this part, but
Right.
um,
Yeah.
I love the character designs like
Yes.
Kylo and Rey and Finn, and I'm upset that Finn didn't get to do more. And even Poe, we didn't get as much from him as I thought
Mm-mm.
we were going to. And I'm really upset because Phasma was awesome, and they got Gwendolyn Christie to be Phasma,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then they throw her in the garbage chute, and then she dies in the second one. And
Yeah, that's
it's
why I say like I think there's too many hands in the pot. Like I think Force Awakens, I really enjoyed that because it's like, okay, I can see like they're laying out the foundation of where this story can go. I really thought Finn was going to be a Jedi. I think that is like a huge mistake that they did not go forward with that. They should have, if they should have had Rey's lineage decided from the get go instead of being at the last minute. Oh, let's make her a Palpatine. Like just there were so many. It laid it out there, and then Last Jedi, it's like they just took everything that was there and they threw it away, and they did the opposite. And then like Nine is like trying to correct that,
yeah,
and yeah, I think it's like you said. I take it, it's a part of canon. It is what it is. Like I'm not gonna like I won't be that person that hates anybody for enjoying them. Like if you enjoy
mhm,
them, you enjoy them. They are beautiful movies to look at, and it is what it is. But my love is definitely gonna be like what came before. And I like
yeah,
how you mentioned the prequels. Like I think that's why the Clone Wars needed to exist is it kind of filled in those gaps that was missing from the movies because you could see that George was kind of like, and I think that's why we're seeing like kind of the cheesiness is like this dude had like a million and one ideas and he wanted to squeeze that all into these movies and at the end of the day they couldn't so that's why I'm grateful that we have the Clone Wars because the Clone Wars is what actually helps me understand the prequels
yes,
better. I feel like I think people would love the prequel. If you watch Clone Wars and you watch the prequels again, you're like, oh my god! Like you can like it's kind of like you're getting the full picture.
yeah,
Like I think if you just watch the prequels and it's like, but I that's why I love the Clone Wars so much is it just gives us so much more. And I also love the era where it's not all pain and misery all the time. Like, we're seeing like the Jedi at their height and we're seeing more Sith and that's like interesting. It's a good era. I
yeah,
love that era just because of that.
absolutely. Your mom.
Nothing beats 4, 5, and 6. Sorry, guys. Well, I mean, I think ultimately that is true. Like that nothing's ever going to beat the original trilogy. And I think a lot is because, there were other people double checking George's work.
Mhm.
Like I really do think that's what happened. Is I think George got really excited and wanted
Mhm.
to include a lot of things in the first three, and that's why we needed the Clone Wars to help us out.
Yeah. And I know some people have said that like they didn't need to see the young Anakin stuff, and they would have
Yeah.
liked the prequel started at Padawan Anakin and going from there. But I feel like you miss out a lot of stuff, especially with Shmi and Anakin leaving,
Yeah.
And the whole stuff with them, not initially wanting to train Anakin. But
Yes.
you're absolutely right with the Clone Wars. I know I remember talking to my mom, and she was like, "It just seems quick. Anakin's changed to the dark side," and it's like you got to
Yes.
remember that it's not quick. There are years of
3
war.
years. Yeah, there's 13 years total.
Yep.
And that's what I love about the Clone Wars is you see Vader coming out little by little. So then when you do watch Revenge of the Sith, it's like it's not this. It's kind of like Palpatine was just pulling the strings, and then Padme dying was just that was it. Like that was he just needed one more thing to set him off.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Absolutely.
agree with your mom. I think if you don't know Clone Wars and you watch 1, 2, and 3, you just say, whoa, God, like, like that was fast. Like, yeah, like, dang, all right.
And I watched the prequels again with her, and she enjoyed them more than when we initially watched them because I was explaining things and like this is where you start to see this, and I pointed out Easter eggs, and we've watched a couple of the documentary things together, but because when we first watched it, she was like, "Well, who's this Count Dooku, and why is he so important?" And
right.
And then he gets killed at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, and then there's General Grievous, and he gets killed 2/3 of the way into the movie,
yeah,
and out to be this big threat. And I think even the Clone Wars that's behind you didn't do a super great job with Grievous, but that's where I loved these.
Yeah,
Grievous and these was Grievous was a force to be reckoned with in this.
Oh yeah.
He's so cool. And obviously my mom didn't watch those things with me.
I think there's a stigma with animation, like just because it's animated, people won't watch, but it's like you're missing out on so much. And I liked how you pointed out Grievous, because one of the books I have, Labyrinth of Evil, it's such an amazing, it's one of my favorites for sure, but it does delve into Grievous more, like how he became what he was, and he was a threat. He is intimidating. I like just like reading that book, the description alone, I'm like, ooh, like, like if like if I came head to head with General Grievous, I would be terrified. I agree. Yeah, I think that's the problem is, when you watch the prequels, there's so many things being introduced, and then they're gone. You don't have the time to enjoy them. Put the prequels in a better light. I think so. I think, but I think I'm just the type of person where it's like, and that's what I love about this community is nobody's like a hater. Like everyone has their own opinions, but nobody is like disrespectful or like, like like Kylo Ren is the worst or Rey. It's just like just let people have their fun. If they like the movie, let them enjoy it. Don't be sitting there because it's like at the end of the day, I do love Kylo. He's hot. Well, I've never heard her say that before. I thought Anakin Skywalker was what you enjoyed. I've never heard her say that before.
Oh boy.
Started down there at the sequel intro. But to go back, what you were saying about, I think it is so important that we saw a young Anakin. We needed to see how different he was in comparison to everyone else. We needed to see why the Jedi were terrified of training him, how abnormal that is. And that's what I really like about these Legends books too, is they explain the Jedi process. Like there is a reason why they're taking these kids at such a young age, is because you have these crazy psychic powers and you can change the fate of the galaxy for worse. So it is important for, and one thing I want to point out that I don't think a lot of fans understand is Jedi were not kidnapping kids at all. It was definitely, they've said it over and over, like they have to willingly give their kid to the Jedi. No one's going to abduct their child. Just like Qui-Gon didn't abduct Anakin, it was his choice to go with him. But it was important for them to take them at a young age to train them how to, handle their power, because with great power comes with great responsibility, and they have shown us your emotions really impact, you know, the Force and how you. So it was important to see that, yeah, like, because Anakin is like the only person to have a relationship with his mom, um, you know, and how important she was to her, and, you know, his, you know, how much he loves Padme. Like, it does, the Jedi know full well this could take a very dark turn. We needed to see young Anakin, and we just needed to see that, you know, Vader wasn't this evil person. You know, Palpatine is evil. You know, we know, like, he's just inherently a bad guy. But I think it was important for us to see that Vader was that kind human being who was a genius. You know, he built C3PO from scratch. He was an excellent pod racer. He had good intentions. You know, he wanted to come back and free all the slaves. You know, he wasn't this awful person. It was just creepy Palpatine, you know, grooming him into becoming his apprentice and pulling the strings to make it happen. That's the whole point of the Clone Wars, is to push everyone to the limit and to get rid of the enemy. That was the whole reason why he needed to get rid of, he was so hell-bent on getting rid of Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, because he needed to take all of that away from Anakin to get him to turn. Because if they stayed, you know, I truly believe that if Obi-Wan wasn't sent to kill Grievous, we would have a very different outcome. And that's what I love about the books, is we see that, like in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, is it made it very clear that Anakin will always choose the light if he has Obi-Wan and like the influence of his mother and whatnot with him. And when that's taken away, he's vulnerable to that. So I 100% agree. We needed to see young Anakin because we needed to see that Vader was not born this horrific person. He's a tragedy. It's a tragic character. We needed to see that. He was a ambitious young man, and bad things happen, and that's why we got Vader.
Exactly. And John's just echoing kind of what, if the whole trilogy had that feel that Force Awakens did, it would have been great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they just needed to have a set story. I think, you know, and I think what's frustrating is that George did have 7, 8, and 9 scripted, and he wanted to give that to Disney, and Disney decided to go in a different direction. And it's like, that's fine. You own it. You can take it however you want to go, but don't start making these movies until you have a beginning, middle, and end planned out.
Right.
Named Leia.
Absolutely, Jacob.
Yeah, I need to read those books. I haven't read that yet.
Very good.
But I have yet to read a Bad Legends book.
Some of them can get a little bit out there, and you know, there are some concepts that people don't like, and the tricky thing is some people take, like, they don't think Disney Star Wars is like it's not their Star Wars, and they only consider the EU stuff and Legends to be canon. But I think what's going on with Star Wars and Disney now is you've got a couple people who are now realizing what they made mistakes with for the sequels. Now they're trying to bring in some of those EU things, but respect them in the ways that they should be. John Favreau and Filoni, I feel like they're doing a very good job of pulling from things and also kind of crediting the creators that did those EU works, rather than just taking ideas and then changing them slightly and saying it's something completely new. Because there are definitely influences you get from, I mean, like, Palpatine coming back is definitely a Legends EU thing. And all that. But to then basically just not explain it and say, well, he's back.
Somehow he returned. At the very end, somehow he's back.
Exactly.
And I can't wait. I think that's one of your questions too, is, you know, what are my favorite books and comics? And those are my favorite things. And that's what started my collecting too, is I started collecting books and comics before everything else.
Okay. Can't wait for episode 10. Hey, Left Coast Graphics, how's it going?
Oh boy. if they decide to milk it, please have a plan. Like, please have a plan. Completely fall for Anakin. And I think that's what helped too, is I enjoyed Hayden Christensen as Anakin. I don't hate it, but I really think that the Clone Wars helped people like Anakin Skywalker a lot more, because we got to see that he wasn't this, ticking time bomb. Like, he was a good Jedi. He was heroic. But you got Palpatine. I mean, you got Palpatine messing with this guy. He's getting into his head. So I agree. I think Clone Wars helped a lot with his character. Clone Wars and Rebels. And Rebels, I didn't watch that when that first came out. I watched that last summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I like Clone Wars more. I mean, it's not my favorite. I mean, but there are elements in there that I really enjoyed. I think the episodes I liked the most were the ones that had references, like, Maul, Ahsoka, Vader. Those were the episodes to watch. But I agree. I think that these shows just help a lot with these characters that get, like, not a whole... You can't tell an entire story in 2.5 hours.
Right.
I agree. I think, Star Wars is definitely made for animation, especially that last season of Clone Wars. Beautiful. I mean, like, just the last sequence and Maul and Ahsoka's fight is the most beautiful thing. It's a work of art. And I think people just... There's so much, like, that goes into animation, and I really wish people would respect that more. I get that we have live action because it does appeal to a larger audience, but you got to give the animation a try, because you're missing out.
Yeah. My uncle, who we watched Star Wars together, and he's introduced me to a bunch of different movies from from all over popular culture. He just recently started watching Rebels, and he plans on going back and watching the Clone Wars, but he'll come over every once in a while, and he'll say, I just finished season 2 of the Clone War, or of Rebels, and we'll talk about a couple things, and there are things that he didn't realize that he missed.
Oh yeah. What I really like about the animation is, I think it's like I said, I think a lot of people didn't understand the Jedi and the Sith, who they were and what they believed in, until the animation. I think it just shows, like, yeah, it was a big loss. And let me tell you, that Order 66 montage, when you watch the animation, it hits so much harder. That's why it's several times, yeah. And I loved Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. I loved it. Even as a kid, I didn't, understand, why I loved them so much as I do now, but I'm glad they're coming back for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love it, and it saddens me that people were so hard. And that's another thing I don't enjoy either, is these poor actors that are in it. Oh my gosh, they get burned at the stake, especially those poor people who did the sequels. They're not my favorite movies, but I'm not going to go out of my way and hate on these people. They had no control. I think people miss that. It's like, they had no control of what they said. You think Oscar Isaac had any control of saying somehow Palpatine returned? It's like, no, they're given it, and that their job is to say it. Same with Anakin. Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen, they had to sit there and talk about not liking sand. You can't hate them for that.
And people like to rag on Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman for lines in the prequels, but when you take actors like Liam Neeson, Samuel L. Jackson, and make them hard to watch, it's not Hayden Christensen's fault for what he was given.
No. And I think he played Anakin Skywalker perfectly. I really do. I mean, because I think people are taking it out of context. Okay, you have this boy who was born into slave, like, he's had a hard life. Okay, he was a slave. He just had his mother. Okay, then he makes the choice to, he decides to become a Jedi, but he's away from his mother for several years, and then he loses mom, and he falls in love, and people don't understand, like, this is a man that experienced a lot of loss, and that's something that's seen a lot in the Clone Wars. Is this man has put up with a lot, like he's been tested a lot. So when I see Hayden Christensen's performance, it makes sense. Like, just knowing what he's gone through, it's like his reactions make sense. Okay, like, I'm sure if any one of us was in that same situation, we would lose our cool too.
Yeah. Still cry over the last couple episodes of the Clone Wars. It was
beautiful. Oh yeah, that last sequence. Oh my gosh, when Ahsoka is just standing there with all those clones, these people that have been by her side for the last 3 years, and she had to bury them, and she's 17 years old. I think people miss that too, is the child soldier. They're exposed to all this, and that's why that's why I don't understand why Barriss Offee gets as much hate. It's like, this is a child that's been exposed to things that children probably shouldn't be exposed to. But that was just like, and she's dropping that lightsaber that Anakin literally gave to her. Yeah. And Vader picking that up. It's so emotional. I could not, Filoni knocked that out of the park. I can't imagine a better ending for Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Order 60, yeah. I have a real hard time. Like, if I have that playing, I kind of, like, don't watch, because it's hard, because you're seeing these characters, these people who are more than just background Jedi, get destroyed. It's awful. It's awful. And I can't believe there are people out there that are like, yeah, they deserve that. You think genocide was okay? You think genocide is okay? Like, oh my gosh. No. Order 66 will never be okay. Children and all that getting murdered because they're Jedi? That's awful.
I agree, John. The last scene with Vader in the snow, and then, yep.
Mm-hmm. And him seeing Morai, the light side entity that's with Ahsoka, and just seeing that his eyes were blue and not the Sith yellow behind. It's like, you just know, like, she's not Ahsoka. He knew Ahsoka was not dead, but he's not going to say anything. Like, that just showed Anakin is very much still inside Vader. And that's why I enjoy the Vader comics so much too, is you see the regret and grief like that he goes through. Like, you see him being like, I messed up. Like, my life, I messed up big time. And Anakin Skywalker never left. He was always there. Yeah. He was just miserable, and Palpatine was just awful.
Tina makes a very good point here. He kept asking the Jedi for the answers, and they told him to forget about it. And
I think that was a problem too, is I think, since Anakin was just so unique, I don't think the Jedi knew how to elaborate on what they're saying. I really think Yoda in that scene where he's like, listen, I'm getting these dreams. I don't want them to happen. And for Yoda to just say, you need to train yourself to let go. Well, yeah, I agree. That's a message he's been told for several years. That's not what Anakin wants to. So I do agree with that. And I think, it was important to show that, I love the Jedi. I really do. But they were flawed. And, and I think that's okay. It's okay to be flawed. And I think I agree with you, Tina. It's like, I think because the Jedi aren't used to having someone like Anakin, they just don't know how to elaborate on what they're saying. So I'm pretty sure if Yoda was like, hey, tell me what's really going on. Like, I'm sure if that was a more open-ended conversation instead of like, you just need to train yourself to let go, dude, things could have been different too. I do agree. But flaws and all, genocide is still not okay.
Yeah. And I feel like that's why Qui-Gon and Count Dooku are two of, like, my favorite characters, is because they both realize that the Jedi are flawed, but they both took two different routes to dealing with it. I absolutely love Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. it is my favorite Star Wars novel.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, it makes sense. Qui-Gon is your guy too. So, and that's what I like too, is we got to see more of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's relationship, which wasn't really touched on in Phantom Menace.
Right.
Besides Qui-Gon being like, yeah, I'll drop Obi-Wan and drink. And Obi-Wan just being like, what? But yeah, I love it for that reason. And I like how it was the master that turned and not the Padawan.
Yep.
I think they were the reverse of Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely loved it.
If Qui-Gon never trained Anakin, I agree. And I think Filoni has said that. That's why Duel of the Fates was so important, is because the fate of the galaxy was literally in that. And if Qui-Gon would have lived, Anakin would have had that father figure, and he could have been able to help Anakin deal with those attachment issues, or just being able to balance that. It's all about finding balance. The Jedi weren't celibate or anything like that. Like, they could have it, but it's that ability to, like, I can't let the entire galaxy suffer because of one person. I think the Jedi just they weren't communicating that well. I think it was all miscommunication. But yeah, I agree. If Qui-Gon lived, Anakin would have been fine. Palpatine would be really screwed, and I think Palpatine knew that. Like, I have to get rid of this guy.
Absolutely. And that's that. Hearing Dave Filoni talk about that in the Duel of the Fates, and some people were surprised and they were just like, "Whoa, I never thought of it that way." But that I think hearing him talk about it that way was so cool, as someone who loved the prequels and said, you can't have the story of the original trilogy without that story.
Yeah.
And
and I love Phantom Menace, and I think somebody commented that earlier, of Phantom Menace showed us the rise of that evil getting started. We needed to see Palpatine pull those political strings. We needed to see that story happen to understand, how Palpatine was able to control the Republic. And I think that's the thing too, is people are, well, there's not enough action. Well, there was action. There was pod racing. We had Duel of the Fates. But it's a beginning. Beginnings of stories aren't going to be the most action-packed. You have to have the foundation to explain the action that comes later.
Yeah. It's like Alien versus Aliens, or Terminator versus Terminator 2.
And I agree, about Dooku never really being a Sith.
He does do the Force lightning, and he does take Darth Tyrannus, but I think that was more of a cover, and he knew that they make it clear that he's just a pawn in Palpatine's game, and it's almost like he knows that he's a pawn in Palpatine's game, which is
and in Dark Disciple, he made it very clear he wanted Voss to help him kill him. I think with Dooku, and that's what makes him interesting to me as well, is I really think Dooku, in his mind, thought he had good intentions. He was like, I could really lead the galaxy much better than the Republic. And because in many ways the Republic did fail, and he left because of that, because his home world needed him. And I really think he thought he could make the galaxy a better place. But unfortunately, he got caught in Palpatine's game. And I think, and we could talk about this too, is I'm not entirely sure how much Dooku realized how screwed he really was. Because you could see the shock, in Revenge of the Sith, where he's like, yeah, kill him. It begs the question, like, did Dooku really realize just how tragic his path went?
Yeah, and did Dooku think that he was going to be able to leverage his working with Palpatine to, accelerate and win the war, and that's why he failed? was he overlooked and failed to see the threat of Palpatine and Sidious.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and pay the price of not listening to Anakin more. And I would throw in Qui-Gon, Dooku, and Barriss Offee. Yep. And here's the thing is, to me, Barriss Offee is like the flip side of Anakin. I really did. And like Ahsoka made that very clear too in the Ahsoka novel, that if they listened to people like Barriss, things wouldn't have happened. And that's what makes those tend to be my favorite characters, is like these people are smart enough to see that, wait a minute, like we're going down the wrong path here. Same with Fives, the clone. Like, I'll never be over that, where he's like, listen, there's something going on, and nobody would listen.
Yep.
Palpatine playing mind games. Yeah, that's what he does.
Beginnings of stories can be slow. See WandaVision's episode 1 through 3, Falcon Winter Soldier, episode 1. Dooku, only just a pawn in Game of Life. Yeah.
We're not completely in the wrong. Yeah, I agree. You know, the Separatists just didn't agree with the Republic. The true villains of that were the Trade Federation, I think, you know, and they make that very clear in some of the Legends of lore. It's like, it wasn't the Separatist Party that was evil. It was the people who were in it that had their own agenda. But as a whole, they just were like, hey, the Republic is failing the galaxy.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you're saying. Didn't see that they were pawns. It was just, yeah.
Nobody was, and I think that's a line that I really enjoyed in Rebels, when they saw those droids again, and they all realized we were in an impossible situation. Nobody was meant to win this war. It was just Palpatine's messed up plan to get Anakin to turn to him and to seize control. And that just hit, and I don't think people realize that either with the Clone Wars. It's just like, wow, this was a crap situation. Nobody was meant to win. Fives, yeah, I'll never be over that.
Hey, Tez. Oh, Fives.
He tried so hard.
He did. Newt Gunray and all of them were shocked that they were going to be slaughtered at the end. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just like, what? We just wanted peace.
I've played a little bit of the Old Republic, but I haven't gotten into any of the stories, really. And that's something I need to try. Have you played it?
No, I have not. I've read the Darth Bane trilogy. That's the only, like, because it's interesting, because that just kind of sets the path to why Palpatine was able to succeed later on. But no, I haven't. But having seen, you know, Jedi Fallen Order, it's amazing how some of the best stories and characters do come from video games.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I always forget to ask, but hey, now we can get to the questions now.
All right, favorite Star Wars character. And I was telling Brandon right before we got on, I was just like, oh man, this was probably the most loaded of all the questions, because it's like having to pick favorite children. And but real quick, just want to show, I do have some of these characters tattooed, but let's see, get on camera.
Oh, wow.
So I have Ahsoka so far. Anakin is there. Luminara is up here. I'm like trying to move. And then Obi-Wan in his clone armor is going to go there. And I'm going to be adding more characters. Like, I know I want Qui-Gon and Barriss Offee on there too. And I want to have the originals somewhere. But if I had to pick one character, for the sake of her just being so severely underrated, I'm going to have to go with Luminara Unduli, for sure. She's definitely one of the characters that, you know, was in the, you know, didn't have much screen time in the prequels, but the Clone Wars, and reading some of the books that I have, just really, her character spoke to me, is because not only was she like similar to Obi-Wan, and I think everyone can just love Obi-Wan for so many reasons, but she was someone who, you know, uh, she fought for what she believed in until the very end. Her fate in Rebels is god awful, like as if like Order 66 couldn't be worse.
Yeah.
To be captured and slaughtered and your body used to lure other Jedi to their death, I think is just awful. And like that's awful, but I love her. She's a great character. My favorite Legends book is The Approaching Storm by Alan Dean Foster, and it's the adventure right before the events of Attack of the Clones, and it's Obi-Wan, Anakin, Luminara, and Barriss doing a mission together, and you learn so much about these characters. But I adore Luminara. She's someone who, she wasn't like a Jedi that was like, she was no Krell, Paul Krell or anything like that.
Right.
She was just someone who fought and died for what she believed in, and I think that speaks to me.
And I think that's another thing that they do well in the animated Clone Wars is Luminara and Barriss are in that, and they're trying to protect the kyber crystals on Ilum.
Yes, and I love that sequence, and I know I've talked about it on Paul's channel, but the concept of tandem fighting just seems so epic to me. To fight in complete synchronization, that's something I would have loved to have seen, like on screen. And I know, and I think she's severely misunderstood. Those characters are misunderstood too, for reasons I don't understand. Because to me, they remind me a lot of Obi-Wan and Anakin, but
yeah.
I also want to add that I love Fallen Order too. Yeah. For game, because that story is it's incredible. The characters are amazing, and I really hope we get to see more of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've got the Cal Kestis Gaming Grate pre-ordered, and I have the Funko Pop of Cal with BD1, and it is a great game, and I've done a couple playthroughs on my channel, but I want to go back and do it again just because I love it so much. There, sometimes you don't expect to have an emotional response to a video game like that, and there's really good lessons that Seer.
Oh yeah, it's such a moving story. It really is. I mean, just from that whole opening sequence of seeing Order 66 from the eyes of a 12-year-old boy and seeing his master die right before his eyes is so just god awful. And just the confusion of like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? These people who were our friends that we loved, they're pointing it at us, and now the Jedi Order, they saw themselves as a big family, and they're dead, they're gone. And this story of survival and perseverance, and just what I love about Cal is he's very similar. He reminds me a lot of Obi-Wan. Is like he's lost so much, and you would think like, wow, this guy has every reason to turn to the dark side, but he doesn't. Like, he still is like, I'm a Jedi. I'm gonna fight for what I believe in. And Trilla's story is so tragic too. I like that too, because we saw more of how awful the Inquisitors, what they dealt with. I know like some of them are off, they went in there because they are bad, and their morals are a little messed up, but I mean, just to see that perspective is just so tragic. It really is. I love that story, and it just shows that, despite everything, the light's always going to win. And that ending where, they take that holocron and decide, what, we're just going to trust in the Force. I think it's just so powerful, and it's so applicable to real life, is that, when the world is just so uncertain, we still live in a very uncertain world. And just to be like, what, we're just going to have faith. And I think it's such a moving story.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you get to customize lightsabers in it. Like,
that is really cool too, because who doesn't have that dream? And that's something I can't wait to do in Galaxy's Edge, just to be able to pretend to be a Jedi would be awesome.
it's such a
It's
cool
amazing.
experience. Yeah.
I'm gonna be totally honest. I have a couple stories for them already written, and I hope one day I can bring them to light, because I think those two are severely misunderstood and slandered across the coals by the fandom, which for reasons I don't understand why. Because like I said, they're very similar to me to Obi-Wan and Anakin, but I think there's something about to me, and not to like get too political here, but I think female characters are like held to a higher standard than like men. It's like, when you think about it, like, Barriss Offee's reasoning is like, okay, well, she didn't, her rationale, she's smart enough to see that something is up here, and her way of dealing with that might not have been right, but she didn't kill as many people as like someone like Anakin, like.
Right.
But I just think there's just a higher standard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think women are just held to a different standard than like male characters. Like we know, like Maul does god awful things, but we still love him anyway.
Right. Yep.
And for something minute, in comparison, what Barriss did, and now she's like just burned at the stake. It's like, geez, okay. Truly a tragic character. Yeah, and I have these too. Besides the approaching storm, I love the Med-Star duology, because we get to learn more of Barriss as a character, and she is a healer, which is something I wish we would have saw. She's a healer, and those books do delve into. She's a lot like Anakin, where if she's away from her master and people that she loves, she's more vulnerable to like the dark side, and she does struggle with that, but she's able to overcome it. So her character in these books is completely different than what they decided to do with her. So I really hope that I have the opportunity one day to kind of erase that a little bit, because she is a tragic character. She's a tragic character like Dooku. I'm sure her and Qui-Gon would get along well, but for whatever reason, people just hate.
Yeah. Luminara is in the Republic Heroes game for the PlayStation 2. Oh, I haven't played that one.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars The Old Republic, there's a quest storyline on Ilum for crystals as well as Sith Barriss. A ton of crossover.
One thing that I'm glad that Filoni has said is that he's like, Barriss never became a Sith, nor would she ever become a Sith. So she's kind of like if Dooku and Anakin didn't fully, like, she stopped. Like, I think, and I could do a whole video essay on this, but I think she realized pretty quickly that she made a mistake. Like she acted on as we all do when we're heated and we're anger, and I get the impression that she's away from her master a lot for whatever reason. So like it's kind of like you have this kid who's been exposed to war, dealing with something by herself. She acted on something, and then she quickly realized, I made a mistake, I messed up. So, and Filoni's like, yeah, she would never become an Inquisitor or a Sith or anything like that, because she knows she made a mistake. So I'm glad, because I wouldn't think so. We definitely, and Blackstone, I agree.
Yeah.
It is really hard, and if anyone could find a Clone Wars Barriss Offee, that'd be great.
I've seen a custom, and I mentioned it before, that you can get a custom dark ray that is painted to look like Barriss.
I need that.
And I'm trying to. I saw it on Instagram, and I need to go back and see if I can find it. It's probably lost to the internet scrolling now. But, it was a really cool custom where they changed the robe up a little bit and put some other soft goods, but they painted the face, and it's a really good job. And it is weird that we get certain Black Series figures and not others. And I think every member of the Jedi Council that we see and the other Padawans that we see should all have Black Series figures.
I agree. Because it's like, there are certain characters, like, okay, if a Tusken Raider can have a Black Series figure, then I don't see any reason why we can't have all these other great characters. Yeah, I'll have to find it, but Leia was, I enjoyed her a lot, and I definitely dressed up as her quite a bit growing up. It's a story not often told. That's another great line right there. Did you ever hear about the tragedy of... That's such a great conversation. To stop Palpatine. I agree, and that's what I like is, like, Palpatine... I mean, not Palpatine. Obi-Wan does say in Revenge of the Sith that Anakin has never failed me. Like, he always comes around. And that's what I think is so beautiful. And I think that's my favorite moment of all of Star Wars is Vader choosing to save his son and getting rid of... So he did fulfill the prophecy. Right. It was a messy way to get there, but he did it. He got rid of Palpatine.
Yeah.
Hi, Jadian. It's my brother-in-law.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and that's what I like about Master and Apprentice and talking about the prophecies and stuff like that is they're not always easily explained. So when they say that he'll bring balance to the Force, it's like, yeah, I mean, he did. It wiped out pretty much everything besides a couple of Jedi and a couple of Sith, and then he ultimately defeated the Emperor. So kind of in a roundabout way, but he did.
He got there. And I think that's what I enjoy about the Vader comics too, is we see that human part of him is still there. You can see that he does not enjoy being Palpatine's puppet. He kind of figures out right away, hearing Padme has died, that Palpatine did use him. He did lie to him. And he is responsible for what has happened. But it's only until he felt the unconditional love of his son that he's able to have the confidence to turn around and fulfill the prophecy. Gisana, I agree, and I don't understand why. And I know Luminar and Barriss, interesting story there. What I like about it is, when Ventress was coming into conception, which is another one of my favorite characters, and I'm glad that she got a complete story arc too, that I wish these other two got, is Luminar and Barriss were part of that concept art. They were earlier versions of Barriss. I mean, not Barriss, Ventress. But Lucas loved them so much that he turned them into Jedi. And I know that he, the actresses did train in that tandem fighting, and I know he had other plans, but, at the end of the day, it was all about, we need to see the turn of Vader. So I agree. And that's what I hope to do with, what I would love to do in my writing is to bring these characters into the forefront, because there are more interesting Jedi characters out there besides the ones that we normally see.
Right. And Luminara is one of the Jedi that speak to Rey at the end. And I feel like wait, the importance that is put on some characters and not others is disappointing. And
oh yeah,
I would definitely love to read. You might have to send me the name of those books, because I would love to check those out.
Oh yeah, and it just, because I know a lot of the fandom perceive her as being cold, which I don't understand, because her actions say otherwise in books and what we see in the Clone Wars. But I really liked how, when she's included, what she says to Rey, "Find the light," I just think is such a beautiful message, because it's like, just knowing what happens to her, like, it's like, you just know, like, despite everything that's happened to that poor woman, like, she lost her Padawan. We don't know, if they ever reconciled or anything like that, but just what became of her death, and for her to pass that, like, no matter what, you can always find the light, where you're not alone. I just think is just so touching, and it tells us that was my favorite part of episode 9, is just knowing like these people were able to find their way to peace. You know, like they were able to become one with the Force. I think was very touching. And that is one thing I'm grateful for in canon, is I think in Legends, like nobody could become a Force ghost. It was like, you know, exclusively to Obi-Wan, Anakin, Yoda, and Qui-Gon. But we can now see that these poor people were slaughtered. They got the chance to find peace.
Yeah. A list of all the characters that they want to do, and every year they choose 30 or whatever. Oh, for Black Series figures. Yeah. Because there are, like, we talk about it all the time, that Cantina aliens don't have Black Series figures yet, and, you know, there are Jedi characters that don't have Black Series figures yet, but we've got a handful of, well, dozens actually, of different types of Luke Skywalker. And
yeah,
I mean, yeah, they are iconic looks, and people want, you know, some people collect all of one character, and they've got every look of Luke. They've got all the Obi-Wans that have ever come out. But I feel like Hasbro with Black Series needs to do a better job of getting more characters out there.
I agree. And I love Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi as much as the next person, but I do think that's another issue too, is we see some of these characters that are like on a pedestal almost. And it's like, well, there is more. And Palpatine, and that's not to say, despite, you know, me saying like Palpatine is this awful person, he is an incredibly written villain. I mean, he is a good villain. He really is. He's smart. Um, and you know, he was clearly successful, and he's just evil, you know, like he's not this, like, he doesn't have a tragic backstory or anything. He's just evil because he's evil. So I agree, he is a good villain. A one-shot movie, I agree. I really think, you know, these Jedi like Plo Koon, Luminara, Shakti, even Mace Windu, that's another Jedi that I think just unjustifiably gets burned at the stake. And when you see what's there, you know, like the thing with the Jedi is these were people who were just doing their best in an impossible situation. And, you know, like I said before, Anakin was an anomaly, and I don't think they were equipped to handle him, you know, because Jedi have been in power for thousands of years, and then you have this, they don't know, and they've never had to elaborate on their teachings before. They're flawed, and that's okay. I think those flawed characters to me are my favorite because it's realistic, because we as people are flawed. We're not perfect, okay? Like Obi-Wan has made mistakes, and that's okay. That's what makes him, you know, Ahsoka has made it, like, they've all made mistakes. A mistake doesn't necessarily mean we gotta hate them for it, because you know, if a character was so perfect all the time, how boring would that be? And
Right.
I know Ashley Eckstein has said that before, because I know she got a lot of slander when Ahsoka first came into light, and people weren't receptive. And they're like, no, you have to see this 14-year-old girl grow up, and growing up comes with growing pains and mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And if we didn't see that, how boring, how one-dimensional would that be? So we need to see the stories of these other Jedi, especially if we're going to milk Star Wars. I mean, why not? You know, I don't hate on anybody or anything that enjoy like the High Republic stuff, but it's like, well, we still got stuff to finish what already exists. Like, why are we moving on? Don't move on until we've filled all the plot hole, you know, all the things that we still want to see, you know? And I think that's what makes The Mandalorian so popular too, is we're filling that gap between the OT and the sequel. That's what people want to see. We want to see like what's happening in the in-between time.
Yeah. Disney Plus can flesh out some of the stories, live action. That is what I am most excited about for the Kenobi series. Is I really hope we get a flashback scene or a dream scene with Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor in the Clone Wars armor. Like,
I really hope so too, and I hope we get to see those Clone Wars flashbacks, and it needs to happen. And that's another great comic series too. Is there is an Anakin and Obi-Wan comic series that kind of fills in that 10-year gap. We need to see that because we didn't really get to see their friendship as much, and that's another thing I appreciate about the Clone Wars is we get to see their relationship, and that's what makes Revenge of the Sith so tragic. Is then like we know something beautiful has been lost. They weren't, they banter, but those two loved each other, and Palpatine got in the way. What can I say?
That's the Clone Wars really made it the line, the "You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you." Like, hurt
so powerful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so much more. Because Anakin was loved, and that's what I loved about the Clone Wars. Is I like seeing the episodes where Anakin is working with other Jedi, like Mace Windu or Luminara or Plo Koon, because like they never despised Anakin. Like they were reluctant to train him, but they appreciated for the man that he was, and they always wanted, the Jedi always wanted the best interests for each other. And I think that's what made watching Revenge of the Sith now so tragic is, I think Anakin did see them as like the found family, which is a theme we see all across Star Wars. And him having to raise a blade against Obi-Wan was probably devastating. It's I don't know. It's like that's the thing. It's like I love Revenge. It's it's an enjoyable movie, but having Clone Wars and whatnot, it just, God, those lines, like you said, hit deeper because it's like we know, like what's been lost.
Yeah, and Ahsoka too, when she was on The Mandalorian, when she's talking to Din and says he was the best of us, and it was like,
and she didn't even say his name. Like that's the thing is she didn't need to a fully trained Jedi Knight. And I like that they put that into Grogu, like having that same similar, like, oh, I don't know, because it's like, there's a reason why why we start training so young. But man, that brought tears to my eyes because it's like, it makes me wonder, like, did Force Ghost Anakin ever connect with her?
Right. And I know some people have said that we probably won't see the like CGI / deepfake Luke again. But I would, if we do get another Luke scene, I think it would be really great to have him talking to Ahsoka about Anakin. That is on my wish list as a Star Wars fan.
I agree. Because I think she needs that closure. I mean, and I think that's what makes her journey so tragic too, is she lost everything. I mean, just like she came back briefly, she saw Obi-Wan and Anakin, and she got to fight with the 501st for the last time, and then just like that's gone. And then my favorite moment in Rebels is Ahsoka going face to face with Vader. It's a very powerful moment because it's just like, and so I agree. I would love for the son of Anakin Skywalker to reconnect with Ahsoka and for them to just bond over that. I think that would be really cool to see.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's one of the hotspots that I got, the Anakin in the Clone War armor, and then I just love the look of it so much, and that's why I love the poster behind you.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love it, and that's why when I did the tattoo consult, I actually wanted both of them in the Clone Wars armor, but it was easier for him to draw Anakin, and that's fine. But I'm just so glad that Obi-Wan is going to be in that armor. That's my favorite version of him. That's like peak Obi-Wan right there.
Absolutely, and that's I mean, right here on it. I think that this was the first time we kind of got to see that was the Clone Wars Anakin and Obi-Wan. And I'm super excited for people to get the chance who haven't seen these, because it's going to be on Disney Plus in like next week, next Friday.
Woo, I'm so excited. Yeah. So that begs the question, does that is that considered canon now? Because both series take very different turns in the story, so that's my question.
I think when within the Star Wars, they're going to have a separate little header for this. But I know that they're making Dirge canon again because he's in Afra.
Okay.
Which is really cool. But I don't think that just because the Clone Wars, we got 7 seasons of it, and it did a lot more with the story and the characters that were different than this. I think they're just putting this up as kind of a, like, here you can finally see it all together. But I don't think that they're going to consider anything that happens in this canon.
What I like about that version of Clone Wars is we got to see the origin, why Anakin has that scar. Okay, yep. For one, him being knighted, that's another thing I appreciate. And certain things like how Ventress even became Dooku's apprentice, and you see more of like Count Dooku and what he's up to, yep. In that. And then seeing these other Jedi, like I said, I love that moment of Luminara and Barriss in that alum temple. I think it's a great thing. I wish we got to see that more. But there are many good things in that version of Clone Wars.
And I know some people are like, well, the force powers are way overblown and like the action and stuff. And it's like, it's a very stylized, the guy did Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
Like it, I honestly appreciate it for what it is. And
and it's so funny. Like there's a whole, I don't about like, Anakin eating bugs and Obi-Wan just being mortified. Yeah. I mean, just little things like that. And just the whole like Jedi dramatically dropping their robes everywhere, but like Obi-Wan just has like the cape. It's just like it's a hilarious take on it too.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and I haven't watched these DVDs yet, and I'm really looking forward to watching it on Disney Plus too, because
Me too.
You have to upscale it and make sure that it's high quality. And a couple months ago I watched it on YouTube because it's been available on YouTube, and I went back and watched the General Grievous scene where he just goes off on the Jedi like over and over again, and it is.
Yeah, he was a threat. I mean, like that's the thing is like that he was a scary dude. Think about it. Ahsoka can tell Luke about his father that he could never know, and she knew. I agree.
Very true.
And I think she would be good too in helping Leia make peace with Anakin Skywalker being her father. I mean, she understandably, like her planet being destroyed, which was all Tarkin, but like still, like it's understandable why she would have that animosity to her roots. But I think that would be good for her, for Ahsoka and Luke to talk about. Like he was a good man, he really was. As we mentioned with how important seeing a young Anakin Skywalker was, it's important for the audience to know that Darth Vader was not this evil thing. He's completely different from Palpatine. He was a good man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's like they both they tackle different storylines.
Right. But they also, the Volume 2 ends with Grievous kidnapping Palpatine.
Oh, so really? It's been so long.
Yeah, it technically fits within. Because it ends pretty much with Shakti fighting Grievous to try to get Palpatine back before he gets on the Invisible Hand.
That's why, and like I said, Labyrinth of Evil is one of my favorite Star Wars books, and that's how the book ended, was Shakti getting. I love that. I love that very much, and of course, how Obi-Wan and Anakin got into the battle over Coruscant is different than what's seen in Clone Wars, but that was one of my favorite parts, was to see like Grievous getting a hold of Palpatine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had. It was like the 3-pack of books, and it was the Labyrinth of Evil, the novelization, and
The Rise of Vader or something.
yeah, like the Darth Vader, and I actually got that on like an e-reader too, so now I can go back and read that. But just the beginning of Labyrinth of Evil, where it's because I believe it starts on Felucia, right?
Nido
Oh,
Catamonia.
okay.
Basically, where they were trying to get Gunray again.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. But
and it was they got the Mecco chair. Like they were so good. That's what the thing is. I was explaining to my good friend Jake when I was reading. I'm like, it's so frustrating how close they were to discovering Palpatine. So close. Like and like even then, like you just see like Mace Windu is like, I'm pretty sure this is the guy. Like he is up to no good. They had forensics. Like they were building their evidence, and then Palpatine gets kidnapped, and then yeah, that's what's frustrating is like they're finally so close to like discovering what people like Fives and Barris and Dooku have been saying all along. It's a good book. It's a really good book.
I need to go back and read it because it's been years since I've read it.
Take solace between the two sets.
So excited to revisit the Genndy Clone Wars. Gotten much better appreciation of Star Wars since I've seen it. Yeah, and that was something when I got the Ewok movies, which are going to be on Disney Plus as well. Is I had never seen them, and people are like, like temper your expectations. But I absolutely loved them. Like, yes, they were cheesy. Yes, it was, they were kind of a mess, but they had that heart of Star Wars, and I've always loved the Ewoks, and that's how I got my channel name. Was my mom either got somebody to make or made me a costume of an Ewok, so I went for Halloween as an Ewok when I was really little.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I've always liked Wicket and the other Ewoks. So when I got to see the Ewok movies, it was really cool. And now they're going to be on Disney Plus, and I feel like so many people who missed out on them are going to have a chance to see them, which I haven't seen the animated Ewoks cartoon, so I am.
And see, even I didn't know they existed. And I know people like I have a younger sister, and that was like she loved Return of the Jedi just because of the Ewoks. So I'm sure she'd get a kick out of it.
Yeah, and that's something that I think Star Wars does really well with the different type of media that they have. Obviously, like a stylized animation like this, but then they've got Rebels, and season 7 of Clone Wars was huge. Like, it wasn't just the super fans of Star Wars that watched it. A lot of people watched the season 7 because it the last 4 episodes could be a Star Wars movie on it. Like,
yeah.
And but the fact that Star Wars can get me interested in different types of media, like with the High Republic, they're releasing a manga, and they've announced that Star Wars Visions, and that's going to be anime. And those are 2 things that I just haven't gotten into. But here Star Wars is with bringing me into those, and it might open the door for me to enjoy other franchises within those categories.
Oh, I'm so excited for that Visions, because I love those little Galaxy of Adventures cartoons, because I'm like the art and just like it just I agree with you. Like there are so many different mediums with Star Wars, and I think there's something for everyone. Like Star Wars truly is. There is something for everyone to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I said, I wish people would give the animation a try. I mean, like they're so good. You still got that costume?
No. No one talks
resistance.
Yeah.
I think it's because of all the sequel hate. To be completely honest with you, I think there's just so much slander, unfortunately, and I think it kills it. You know, unfortunately for people. I personally haven't watched it yet. I know it's on Disney Plus, but I think that's part of it is the fandom menace can just take away something like that from the Resistance.
I enjoyed it. I watched it, and people are like, "Well, don't waste your time with it." But I thought some of the storylines, and it's honestly like some of the early episodes of the Clone Wars, where they're just like the fun little one-off stories
Yep.
stuff. And I mean, it was. I would say Resistance is more kid-based than the Clone Wars or Rebels is. Um, and I know I'm not saying that Clone Wars and Rebels, like,
No, I totally get what you're saying.
I'm not saying it's just made for kids, but because the Clone Wars and Rebels have some pretty dark themes, like
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh yeah.
hey, space
And
fun.
I feel like it went down. Like I think Rebels was geared more towards a kiddie audience, and I would say Clone Wars, just because just the way it was done.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Resistance may have gone down that route because they know they're appealing to the next generation of Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming this went on Disney Channel or something, so maybe that's why too. But I think, unfortunately, you got these people who just think they're purists and they know Star Wars better than anyone else, and it just kind of ruins it for other people. Like I'm not going to give Resistance a try because everyone's saying it sucks.
Yeah, no, and I was afraid that I wasn't going to like it, but I really did. Like I would put it on and watch a couple of episodes before going to bed, and there are some moments where it's like this really does feel like Star Wars with the way that the characters work together, the heart behind it. I mean, seeing Phasma in it and Captain Cardinal and Commander Pyre, like they're really cool, really cool characters.
And I think shows like that are necessary. Like you said, is we didn't really. The problem with the sequels was like we didn't really get to know the Resistance or anything like that. So I think those shows are nice to help us fill those gaps and for us to appreciate their presence more.
Mm-hmm.
Marketed as a Hot Wheels show, it really, huh?
And I must have missed out on it because I know that I know it was on Disney, whatever they changed the name of the Disney Channel was, and I've only watched it on Disney Plus, so I obviously didn't see it. But I it does sound like the way that they marketed it, it was very like product based, and
Oh, that's a bummer.
Hot Wheels marketing was a weird choice. Okay, yeah. So I didn't even really know about that until some people told me about it. But some of the characters are super super fun in the show, and I honestly think it's worth the time because it doesn't take much time to watch some of these shows.
Yeah.
Like Clone Wars takes a little bit more time because there are 7 seasons of it, and there are a lot of episodes because there's like 20 some episodes per season. But I don't remember how many seasons Resistance has, but I got through it pretty quickly. And you can watch quite a few of them without it getting overwhelming too.
Yeah.
Like the Clone Wars, there are some episodes that make you really think about things and like want to look up and look at the connections and Easter eggs and everything. But
oh yeah, for sure. Racing element of the show. See, that's a bummer because it's like I don't think that's something Lucas himself would want. That is odd why they chose to go the marketing route with that show.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember the name of the vehicles that they have, but they do. It's basically like pod races with the ships that they fly. But and I'm spacing on the name of the ship, but I'm pretty sure it appears in Rise of Skywalker in that last battle scene. So, and in the novelization of Rise of Skywalker, characters from Resistance come over the intercom and talk to, I want to say Poe.
Okay.
But it's pretty cool that they included some of those things, but it is one of those weird, hey Luke, how's it going? Odie's an awesome, I love his pod racer. I got on the PlayStation 4, they've done some of the remake, like the remasters of the Nintendo 64 games, and I episode 1 pod racer and was playing it, and I'm not very good at it, but it's super, super fun.
That's one of I felt like the pod racing was so fun in that movie. Like, I think it just added that whole world building aspect of the prequels that I enjoy a lot.
The Fireball is the name of the ship on Resistance. Spacepun's wondering if somebody could drop Bailey's channel.
That's very sweet, because it's no solo channel yet. I'm just kind of bumming on the Paul's Collectibles channel, but I'm honored, and I think somebody asked that yesterday night too, and it's like, oh, I'm honored that people like care about what I have to say, you know?
Yeah, and Space Buns is awesome. Space Buns is Sleeping Collectibles' fiance.
Oh.
Yeah, so
thank you.
They're getting ready to be at Disney, and
lucky.
Yeah, that's a good question from Luke.
Favorite Leia scene? Are we talking the book or like Princess Leia?
I'm guessing Princess Leia.
Princess Leia. Let's see. I'm thinking back. You know, I think, if oddly enough, and this really spoke to me a lot as a kid, is just that opening sequence of A New Hope. How she's just telling Vader off, and like when you watch Rogue One, it's even funnier because it's like the audacity that she has to say, like, I don't know what you're talking about, and Vader has literally seen, like, I know what you did, and like her just being like, you know, just so fearless, and to me, it just really set the tone for the character, and it was like immediate, and I think a lot of people just immediately fell in love with that. Just she may be a princess, but she does not care. She will and that's something, you know, to me, she reminds me so much of, she's definitely Anakin's daughter, for sure. Just that whole first scene of her just like telling Vader off and just being telling Tarkin off, you know, I feel like she's just speaking what the audience is thinking, but that's definitely like my favorite.
Stuck on a runway, but both watching. Filmed a little bit for my video about the stream. Hope you don't.
Of course not.
Cool.
She takes no crap. Yeah. Yeah, she's very much her parents' daughter, for sure.
Pop into Disney World while sleeping in Space Buns are at Galaxy's Edge, sneak up on them, or just sit there and stare at them weirdly while in the candy. John's down so he can go to Disney whenever he wants. Never thought of that in the context of the scene in Rogue One, and that it is a funny point, because like to just see what Vader just did, and then know that Princess Leia was basically like, I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. It is so funny, and just to know, like, he's literally talking to his daughter and has like no idea, and she has no idea who she's really talking to. Vader is like this scary person, you know. People are afraid of him, understandably, and she's just like, I don't care. You can execute. I don't care. I love that. And I think even I don't know what it is, but I think there's a Leia novel, a canon novel, where it's like, you know, Leia got kicked out of her school in Alderaan for being too much of a rebel. So she's so much fun.
Yeah, there are a couple Leia novels. There's the Leia Princess of Alderaan, which is, I believe that's the one you're talking about, where it talks about
Yeah.
her growing up, um, and then starting to go on the missions to help, really with the rebellion, but to provide relief to people. And then there's Bloodline, which I have not been able to read yet because I've I've been very busy with streaming um, and watching other people's streams. But I've got Bloodline to finish, and that one is basically her political career and how it is impacted by the fact that she is Vader's daughter. And I really want to read it because I've been told it's one of Claudia Gray's best Star Wars books, and I haven't. It's the only one by Claudia Gray that I haven't read yet.
That's definitely on my list of books I want to read, because that's something I think a lot of people always wonder about too, is how she kind of made peace with like her true parentage. And woohoo, I'm so glad. I'm thank you to those of you who have stuck around with us this long. I mean, I don't know about you, Brent. I could talk about this stuff all day.
I honestly could. Um, let's see. Oh, yeah. Reading Princess of Alderaan has been so fun. Just seeing your start the rebellion, badass. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Luke's Bloodlines is amazing. Chris's Bloodlines, yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, just from the synopsis I've seen, is like she's trying to basically lead the New Republic, but people are like, yeah, no, don't trust you because you just happen to be Vader's daughter. And she's like, what the heck? Like, again, like the audacity of these people.
Yeah, I got into the Dark by Claudia the other day. Too busy watching you guys to read it. It's very good. I've really liked the High Republic, and I understand where Bailey's coming from, where there are other things that should be explored. And to be completely honest, when the High Republic was announced and they said it was going to be this new era set before, I was a little bit disappointed.
Me too.
And I wasn't sure if I was going to go look into it and do all that stuff. But I went and I decided, you know what, I'm going to get everything from this first wave, all the level readers, all the different books, and I'm going to see how the first wave treats me, like how I feel about it. And it feels very Star Warsy to me.
Good. That's a relief to hear.
Yeah, and they've announced the show Star Wars Acolyte, the Acolyte, and that's going to be set 50 years before the Phantom Menace. And I honestly think, timeline wise, because they've said that the first wave of the High Republic books is going to run into like halfway into 2022. So that's a lot. And they have 3 waves planned. So I honestly think they're going to explore this chunk 150 years before the Phantom Menace, and it's going to end leading into that show. So I think it is going to connect more to the Skywalker saga than we think it is, and I think that they're going to do a really good job of tying in the Jedi, and all of the Jedi in the books remind me so much of Qui-Gon Jinn, and I have loved reading it and the messages that they've been saying and everything. So I know some people have been hesitant to try it, but if you like Master and Apprentice and Qui-Gon Jinn and reading about the Force and the connection to the Force, I honestly think these High Republic books are doing a really good job.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I've been one of those people that's been kind of hesitant, because I was like one of those people that's like, wait a minute, why are we going so far? No, we still got other business to take care of. But that's good to know. And I'm really glad that these books are putting the Jedi in a good light, because I really think the Jedi Order has been so misinterpreted by people. Based on that attachment rule, which I think could have been clarified a little more. Right. And I always try to explain that to people, is it's not that the Jedi said you can't love people and that you can't have relationships or anything like that. The problem is when you're willing to, put the galaxy in a dark place, or you're gonna start abusing your power because of one person. That's the issue that they were trying to explain.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that those books are putting them in a better light, because because it does hurt when you see people go, yeah, the Jedi had it coming, like they deserve it. It's like, there is never going to be a good excuse for genocide.
Yeah.
No matter what, there's never going to be a good excuse. They tried their best.
Yeah. And they do make it kind of clear that, the Jedi are, they're being very altruistic about it and trying to help people. It's not
Mm-hmm.
you know, the colonialism aspect of it, like the Starlight Beacon, which is one of the big things that they're trying to get up and running, is to help make sure that like transmissions go out and that they can keep these worlds safe.
Yes.
And it there are some really cool Easter eggs from these books, because we see the space station that Snoke is on in The Rise of Kylo Ren in this book. So that's just a connection to the sequel trilogy right there. But it's really cool to see how they use the Force powers, and some people are also upset because they think the Force powers in these books are a little bit overblown. And it's like, you got to remember that the these Jedi, even though it's just 150 years out from what we see, they have had this long era of peace where they've gotten to explore those powers and
Right.
and taken the time to connect with the Force. Whereas by the time we see in the Phantom Menace, the Jedi's abilities are already being clouded by Sidious.
Right.
So
And that's the thing.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. You finish your that.
No, it's good. It's good.
No, I think people, that's one thing I wish more people would understand in the fandom, is like, when the events of episode 1 take off, that you're seeing like the Jedi are being like they're being extended to what they can. It's like you said, yeah, they don't have time to have explore their powers more. They're just so worried about keeping everything together, and they're just put in an impossible situation, like. And that's one thing I liked about the Bane books, is that's when the Jedi started becoming a part of the Senate. And I wish people would see that more, is the Jedi were not the villains here. It was all about the politics, because the Jedi were just extensions of the Senate. They served the Senate, where it wasn't always the case. And when Palpatine took over the Senate, of course they're going to be set up to lose. So that's good to hear. I'll definitely have to give those books a try, because the Jedi were people who were just trying to do their best. They're just doing their best. Like they were not these cold, unfeeling people. If anything, they feel all the feelings, because they're psychic wizards. Okay, they can pick up the emotions of other people. They feel that deeply. And I think that's when they describe like the part where Anakin is crying on Mustafar. It's because he's feeling what he's done. Like he's able to pick up on the fear and grief and pain of others, and he's feeling that deeply. So these are very deeply feeling beings who are choosing to use their powers for good.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Can't stress that enough. I don't know where people get convoluted and say like they had it coming, and the Sith aren't the real villains here. It's like, it's a lie. I mean, these people are sacrificing everything to be heroes.
Uh-huh.
When you really think about it, I mean, they're raised from a young age, and yeah, that's good to hear. I'm glad that's doing it justice.
Yeah. So much hate for the High Republic, and none of them will even give it a chance. Yeah. And some of the people who say the worst things about it haven't even looked at a page of it. And it's too bad. Don't get how people can dislike something they never read or explored. Exactly.
I don't either. And that's really sad to hear that it's already getting so much hate.
Yeah.
The fandom menace is a real issue.
Yep. So they can claim to be part of this hate group. Yep. The dark side clouds everything. Impossible to see the future is. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hey, Shabby, how's it going?
Hey, hi, Shabby. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very fancy ordering from where I was living in near the Twin Cities. We had a really nice Barnes and Noble that had a coffee shop, and I'd go sit there, and it's actually where I would do some of my writing for the different books I've been working on. And I absolutely love Barnes and Noble. Just going in there and looking at all the books on the shelf, and so I'm glad you ordered your first book from Barnes and Noble, and it's cool that it's Bailey's book.
Yes, thank you, Shabby.
Some channels
are built on hate. Yeah, there are certain Star Wars channels that I won't touch with a 6-foot pole, just because the amount of negativity or their interpretations of certain things are just so bad. And it just makes you sit there and think how did you misinterpret that so bad? I think one of the more disturbing things I've ever heard from people like that is they wish they could see the Order 60, the Jedi Temple slaughter, and I'm like, what does that say about you as a person when you're just saying I want to see the slaughter, and it's just no, that's tragic. Okay, you got, at this point, the Jedi Temple is nothing filled with the elders and the children, and you're saying you want to see them get shot up and slaughtered? Yikes. Or them just crucifying characters, and it's their arguments aren't even based, like you said with these High Republic books. Some people just hate characters or they hate books, and it's you haven't even looked at it, or your arguments aren't even based on what's there. I'll never understand when people say they point Mace Windu or Luminara or any of those Jedi as these terrible people, and it's but based on what we've seen, that's not true. I don't know where you're getting that from. Yeah, there are some channels that I just stay away from. Any channels that deal with gossip of what's going on in Lucasfilm, I don't touch, because it's that's just, why can't people just enjoy something? Why can't we just take it for what it is? We don't have control what goes on. We don't have to agree with everything, but that shouldn't take away from enjoying Star Wars. I know a lot of people when the sequel movies came out, they're like, I'm so done with Star Wars. I want nothing to do with it. It's but why? Why are you going to allow something to take you away from 40 plus years of storytelling? I don't know. I don't understand it either.
Yeah. Well, and as much as I don't like when people hate on things, a lot of the people who really didn't like the sequel trilogy love The Mandalorian. And I feel like you can't just give up on something, especially a franchise that you love, just because there are a couple things you don't like about it, because eventually something's going to come back around and you're absolutely going to love it. For a long time, Star Wars games were not great, or they were okay, but then we get things like Republic Commando or Jedi Fallen Order. Battlefront 2 and Battlefront had really bad management due to EA, but I love playing that with friends, and it's too bad that so many people hate on that game or didn't give that game a shot because EA tried to monetize it more than they should have. But it's a super fun game to experience. So I feel like to give up and not get anything Star Wars, it's, if that's what they want to do, it's go right ahead, but you're really going to miss out on something in the future just because you're not willing to give it a try.
There you go. Now I love a good Sith story. Yeah, yeah, by no means. I mean, you can't have light without the dark. So I don't like despise Sith stories. My issue is when fans paint the Jedi Order as something it wasn't, or they just misunderstand their teachings. Um, and their teachings are based on Buddhism, Buddhism, and there's great wisdom and why they acted the way they did. But I think the problem is these people who are so quick to hate, they just have incredibly high standards of perfectionism. Like, there can be no flawed characters. There can't be anything. Everyone has to be perfect. Everyone has to, but that's not realistic. And how, like I said, how one dimensional would that be? Like, if the hero always saved the day, whatever. I mean, so.
And that's one of the things I did like about the Last Jedi. It was there's a scene when it's Yoda and Luke basically reminiscing and saying, "Yeah, we messed up. Like, we need to learn from the failures." And Luke's even like, the Jedi need to end, but it's more because of the downfalls that the Jedi had. It wasn't so much that people like to say that, like, well, they were just trying to end the Jedi because blah blah blah. But it was more the fact that he recognizes that the Jedi weren't always right in their perspective of it, and that their teachings taken from a different perspective could fix many things. And that's what I liked about some of the stuff in the sequel trilogy. So, and when I watched Star Wars movies, and it was mostly just because of the sequel trilogy, I went down, and there were times where I did feed into that negativity, but I didn't do anything with, like, I didn't have a YouTube channel yet, and it was mostly just with friends, and we talked about things that we didn't like about it. But I went through, and then I wrote down anything that made me smile, or any little connection that made me think of my favorite parts of the other movies. And I had like a big long page and a half thing, page and a half of writing down things that made me happy about The Last Jedi. And it made me appreciate the movie so much more. So now I don't think about the things that I don't like about it. I only think about what I love about it. And that's just what I did to help me get through that. Like, I don't like this movie, and I don't know if that's something other people want. I know, like, Shabby has talked about it, that he's only seen The Last Jedi once, and he hasn't gone back and watched it because of how they treated some of the characters. And, yeah.
And Last Jedi, I think, to me, I think what hurts the most is just how Rian Johnson approached the project. He purposely wanted this to be a polarizing movie. And I just think with something like Star Wars, you can't do that. You can't treat it like an experiment. You can't go out of your way and take elements that people loved about Star Wars and throw it away just to like cause a reaction. There was like a different attitude about it. And I totally agree. Like, just the directions characters went, it's like, just like, it hurts because, like, especially with Luke's character, I think, how does the man who saw the good in Vader all of a sudden, like, want to kill his nephew? Or there were just a lot of things that didn't make sense, or just like, he believed in the Jedi so much. And there are comics about Luke Skywalker discovering the Jedi Order, and I have the book Secrets of the Jedi, where it's the Luke in his perspective writing about the Jedi that came before him, and it's like, it just doesn't add up to what we see on screen.
Right.
And so I understand, like, that movie was meant to stir a reaction. And that's something I can't, but it's a beautiful movie to look at. I mean, it really is. And it is what it is. I just wish people could just see it as, like, it is what it is. It exists. It's not going anywhere. Galaxy's Edge ain't going anywhere, and hating it isn't going to change anything. That's the thing, is like you're doing absolutely nothing. Your hate is going nowhere. It's just putting the fandom in a whole, I think, in a negative light. Right. There's something for everyone. And there's something that Ray Park has said that I enjoy, is like, whatever's canon to you can be canon. Okay. Like, if the Legends book, if in your mind that's something that happened, it happened. But don't go out of your way to destroy other people's enjoyment. Okay, like, I'm not the biggest Kylo Ren fan or anything like that, but I am not gonna disrespect or hate anyone. If you enjoy the character, you enjoy the character. I am not gonna go out of my way to be like, well, you're wrong, and like, how dare you? Like,
Yeah.
just let people have their fun. People have their reasons for liking certain things. Just let them have it. Like, you're not George Lucas. Like, that's the thing I think people need to remember, is you are not George Lucas. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if you think you could do a better job, make your own franchise. Okay. So that's like the thing, is just let people enjoy their fun. If people like Ray, let them like Ray. If people like, Rose Tico, let them enjoy it. Like, it's just like, you're not going to change anything.
Yeah. And Rural Farm Boy here, it is because people feel like they have an ownership, and that they feel like they can tell the story better. And it's like, that might be your opinion of what the story should have been, but I think about how boring stories would be if we always got what we wanted.
Yep.
And like, and I really like Game of Thrones, and I think about it, and it's like, a lot of my favorite characters died. And it's like, if you think about what the story would be if they all lived happily ever after,
how boring would that be?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jedi Academy is one of my faves. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, same with Star Wars. I mean, if everything worked out, I mean, how boring would that be? George intended it to be a soap opera. Okay, like, it's supposed to be a story about bad things happening, but love, peace, and just being a good person triumphs over anything. So yeah, it is beautifully said. You are not George Lucas. You don't have ownership over people's enjoyment or anything like that. It's like, just let people have their fun. Okay, keep the negativity to yourself. If you disagree with something, agree to disagree, but don't be a hater. Don't be a hater.
And yeah, Shabby's agreeing. I'm most likely agreeing with you on the Luke Skywalker thing, about how can someone who helped redeem Vader not do the same with Kylo, and
right,
to attempting to, or thinking about killing his nephew.
Right.
We've talked about that before, and I absolutely see where people are coming from that.
It all does exist no matter what. Mm-hmm. Don't watch it. That's the thing. It's like, when the whole Gina Carano thing happened, it's like, I was just like, it is what it is, guys. I mean, it's like, if you don't agree with something, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to give it the time of your day. If you don't agree with the High Republic, you don't have to buy those books. Okay? Yeah. But you can't take that away from everyone else. That's just not fair. And I don't think that's what George would want. Like, these people are putting their story and product into the world for people to enjoy. I don't think he would be okay with anyone being like, yeah, please crucify that person for liking one thing, or like, it's just something I'll never understand.
Yeah, and it is a big problem in pretty much any fandom, is we love it so much that we think that everybody has to love it the same way we do.
Yes.
Or that, that the way that we think about it is right. And honestly, for a long time, I used to think that like fan fiction was silly, and I didn't like anime, and I would like people would ask me if I want to watch it, and I'm like, no, I don't like. I would like, no, I don't like that stuff, and like I wasn't even open to trying it, and I can completely respect, you know, things, and it was me being dumb and stupid, young and stupid, and just, you know, stubborn. But I've learned now to, you know, just one of the things that I like to say is don't yuck other people's yums. And it's like, honestly, who am I to even give a care to what you like?
Exactly.
It's too bad.
Exactly. And believe me, I've had people in my life where they want to poke fun, and it's just like, I'm sorry, but like, who gives you the right? Are you the? Is there? Like, you just like serious? I will never understand why people feel like they get to have a say in what people like and enjoy. But like your perspective, like you said, like, oh, I didn't care for anime. I feel like I hold a higher standard for people who are like grown adults, like you know, like in their 30s and beyond, and even like me being 25. Who am I to like buckle down and tell a kid who their knowledge of Star Wars is just Baby Yoda? I am never gonna tell a kid that they're wrong or that whatever, like let them have it. I'm not going to sit there and preach, you know, like my, you know, it is, let people have their fun and let people enjoy what they enjoy. We're not engineered to like everything, but we're all unique people with different likes and dislikes. So
Exactly. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like us, you're not the biggest fan of the prequels. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of the prequels, but sorry, sequels.
Sequels, yeah.
But I honestly love the prequels, and you know, there are people who prequels aren't their favorite thing, and that's completely okay. Like
Yeah.
that's what I really like about our space is, especially with the like collecting community, because it, like Darth Mark right here, he always says it's not the movies for him, it's the toys, because he grew up with the vintage Star Wars toys. And um, I think that's a really good point, because he, you know, when we talk about character and stuff like that, and sometimes he's just like, I just like it because it's a cool figure. And uh, yeah, and people do talk about it as a Star Wars family, and it's too bad that, you know, sometimes we have the distant cousin that nobody acknowledges because they're rude and they make bad choices. But I mean, it is too bad that it's part of the fandom, but it's part of every fandom. Every fandom has
Yeah.
that toxic side, and that's just where we need to not give it a voice. I know that there have been some issues on Twitter where people are like, well, you need to call it out when you see it. And it's like, yes, you need to call out when people are being when specific people are being mistreated.
Right.
And it's,
but you don't want to feed into it either. And that's what happens too is I am definitely one where I like to pick my battles. And unless someone is just being blatantly disrespectful or like racist or anything like that, there is no need to give that person, because that's what they want. I mean, some people just say stuff because they want to upset people, and they feed off of that reaction, you know. He's 22 and has had a very I miss the days. Yeah, and you know, I that's the thing is like I'm surrounded in my life by what I would consider casual Star Wars fans, where they enjoy it, but they're not like but it's like, as some people say, like, you know, sorry, but the original trilogy is going to be the only thing I give the time of day to. It's just like, it's okay. It's nice to hear different perspectives because you learn. Like I know, like when I did the Bad Batch video with Paul, I liked seeing, like, you know, it's nice to see different opinions because that's what it's for. I mean, you learn. Like I didn't know that the Bad Batch crew was based off of something. It's like, oh, Yeah, that's good to know. Okay, now I can understand why they would put the energy into this project. It's good. Yeah. I think people should be open to that.
Absolutely. Seth says
should pay.
Mark also giving props.
I'm glad. I'm so glad that, Paul and I connected, because otherwise I would have never been on YouTube. Just because I just don't have the knowledge of like how to even like put a channel together, how to put a video together, edit it. But I'm incredibly lucky and blessed, guys, to be able to be on camera and to, give my insight to things. And, that's what I would want for this fandom more than anything else, is more people like us who aren't haters to have that spotlight, instead of some of these channels where I see they have millions of subscribers, and then you watch their videos and you're like, I'm upset. Yeah. Just like you watch their stuff and then you're like, ow. Like, I feel like, wow, you just really twisted something I liked, and wow, yeah. It hurts. Some of the hate just hurts.
Yeah.
We need to be more positive. What sounded good? Yep. Mm-hmm. But it's like I said, the most interesting people to me are the ones who have that quality to them. I love people who are geeks, nerds, because it's like they're way more interesting to talk to, first of all. And they're often the most genuine and kind people and giving people than people who are like, that's animation's beneath me, collecting toys is beneath me, I'm an adult. Okay. You, yeah. I just think of the Natalie Portman meme where she's clapping like, oh, good for you, like, you're an adult, because we all know how fun adulting is.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's not fun. This is fun. Did you listen to any?
Do you listen to any Star Wars podcasts?
No, but I would like to. And I'm really surprised I haven't gotten into it more, because it's like I said, even when I'm like writing or just doing stuff around the house, I love putting conversations like that on, as background noise. Mm-hmm. Just to be like, oh yeah. I love hearing different people's opinions. I really do. It's fun, and it's just like sometimes your eyes are open to something you didn't notice before. Like I know, like when I did my video on Luminara and Barriss with Paul, I had a lot of people come up to me like, I never really thought of it that way. Like, wow, okay. And that's nice. So I will be getting into that. I should listen more of that.
There are some really great ones in the community that have been great at fostering communities that are not toxic, and that it's about what you enjoy, and they don't feed into the hate, which it really helps. And last year around this point, when I was having a really hard time, I was listening to a couple Star Wars podcasts that really helped me get through my day. So absolutely, if you can find a couple that speak to you, and it's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm the Star Wars person in my family, even though my mom introduced it to me, and like, I
think, I know, like amongst my relatives, I think people are terrified to touch that subject with me because they're afraid of what they might get into. But like, I respect that too. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not one to, unless, like, if I'm with someone like you or Paul, yeah, I could talk for hours about it. But when I'm around people like, like my parents, like, I know, like, I know to turn it down, and I can respect that, but it's interesting because I feel like I was telling Paul this, is like, I don't normally get Star Wars gifts from people. Like, all my possessions are things that I've personally like gotten for myself, or a good friend of mine who knows what I like. But I think it's because I think most people just don't know what to get people. Like I know nothing about Game of Thrones. I know about Game of Thrones, but like I would be terrified to buy somebody. I'm like, I don't want to get them the wrong thing. Yeah.
Still wanted by the government. Oh, A-Team. Bad Batch really is Star Wars A-Team, and I think it's a really fun concept. And I think we've talked a little bit about it before, where like I was so excited to see other characters in season 7 of Clone Wars that I was actually upset that they were wasting time with the Bad Batch. But now that I see the era that the Bad Batch is going to take place in, and that trailer is absolutely awesome, and I am excited now.
That animation is so cinematic looking. I mean, honestly, I didn't like despise the episode. I found those episodes way more entertaining than that whole middle arc in Clone Wars, where I'm like, my God, the fact that they stretched that to 4 episodes, like, is like, like that was the one time in my entire life where I was so bored and just so like, what in the world is going on? I had to, and Paul did this too, I had to like, am I watching the right thing? Like, I had to like, okay, like, 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 oh my gosh, that was so, because I'm just thinking of like all the missed opportunities, we could have gotten, there's so much more story we could have covered. We could have seen maybe like stories of the other Jedi across the galaxy that are on their very last missions but have no clue. We could have learned about what happened to Barasafi. Is she in prison? Did she escape? We could have had some of that. I mean, there's many other things we could have chosen to do, but we didn't go down that route. So, but now that I've had time to kind of digest, and I think that's what happens a lot too, is like when we first get news, our first initial reactions they tend to change when we're given more information. And I think that's what's happened. Is when I first heard about it, I was like, really? Like, I just like, okay. But now it's like, okay, it's something I can get behind, having that A-Team, rogue clones adjusting to the Empire. Okay, it's like, yeah, that's interesting now, and I can't wait to do our after shows when that stuff does come out to see what comes out of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm super excited for that.
We're only on this planet for so long, and I just don't see any reason to be bitter, or to enjoy it. Like, enjoy what you love to the very end. I'm sure when I got my tattoos, I'm sure people will be looking at me and be like, really, you want to have that for the rest of your life? And it's like, why not? Like, I I could be gone in a week. I don't know. It's just like,
yep.
Oh, Lord forbid I have characters that represent peace and justice on my skin forever. How dare I? Like, I've also been told, like, what if that keeps you from getting a job? And it's like, really? Really? Me being a nerd, it shouldn't pigeonhole me to anything. Let people love what they love until the very end. I don't care how old you are. Those are the people I like talking to. Yeah, and as a teacher, I've gotten gifts from students, and they're from sequel trilogy stuff, and they may not be my cup of tea, but I don't care. I love it. Like, the thought that they're like, hey, it's Miss Taylor likes Star Wars, and I'm going to give her a Star Wars thing. I don't care. Like, that's amazing.
That is awesome. I've had kids that come up to me because they know that I like Star Wars, and they want to see that the pictures that I've taken of like my Star Wars shelves and stuff like that. And they like, We just had the book fair recently, and they had a couple Baby Yoda posters, and they ran up to me and they're like, "Look!"
Oh, it is such a good feeling. I know I've had children come up to me, and they start wearing Star Wars t-shirts, and because they've told their parents, you know, I want this because Miss Taylor likes Star Wars, and it just warms my heart that if I'm their entryway into an amazing literal galaxy, then that's just, it's awesome. I love it when kids do that, when they bring up and they're like, look, like, yeah, it's cool. But I'm sure there are adults out there who are like, ew, you're wearing a First Order shirt and the Empire was better.
Absolutely. Oh, and I have a couple dozen different Star Wars socks, and when it's like wintertime, I wear them, and the one kid will ask me every day, "Are you wearing Star Wars socks?" And yeah, so especially over the holidays, I would make sure I had different Star Wars socks on every day, and it was like he was keeping track. He was like, "So yesterday was today. Yesterday was this. What is today's?" And it was super fun.
That's awesome. I wear a Star Wars face mask every day to work. And if I don't wear them, if they're like in the wash or something, they'll be like, where's your Star Wars mask? Like, they really do keep track of, like, where is it?
Yeah. And it talking to kids about Star Wars is so much fun because you see, you know, like if I were to talk to myself from a kid, it's crazy how different like I would see it. Because when I was younger, like Attack of the Clones came out and I won a cardboard life-size cutout of a clone trooper.
No way! That's so cool.
And we picked it up about a week before the movie came out. And we had it, and I was looking at it, and I still remember kind of making the connection, like those clone troopers kind of look like stormtroopers, but I still couldn't make the connection. And then we're watching the movie, and I see the clone trooper army, and I'm like, oh, I have one of those in my bedroom right now, and this is so cool. And I was like practically vibrating in my seat because I was so happy. And then they do the little music motif of the Imperial March over it, and my brain just kind of ticked. I turned to my mom.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, and
you know, that's one of my favorite things that makes me laugh in Clone Wars is anytime Anakin gets slightly inconvenienced, they start playing that theme, and it's like, oh, come on. Like, God forbid, the dude could stub his toe and they'll, like, play that march. So I let you know, hey, this is Vader in the making. But that's so cool. Like, how, yeah, like, as a child, it's amazing what connections you make. And I love hearing a kid's perspective of what the things they pick up on. It's just so cool. I always get a kick when, like, a little kid will say, like, Dark Vader instead of, like... Because you just know there are adults out there that would be like after they say that.
Yeah, and it was really funny, especially when season 2 of The Mandalorian was coming out, because the kids would say something, and they're like, "Have you seen it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I woke up this morning to watch it." And they were like, "My parents won't let me wake up to watch it early," and like they're like, "So no spoilers." And it's just so much fun. And then to see kids' art projects, and they've got Baby Yoda and lightsabers and stuff like that, it's like, yes, we're not failing. We're not
failing them, yes. And it opens their curiosity to what else is there. You know, that's awesome. Yeah, Jake and I in the chat, we're just big kids. We just talk about nerd things all day long. It's a good escape. Oh yeah, John Williams gonna make those best scores. You know, I listen to the scores when I'm writing. They are amazing scores, and I love artists who are able to mix those themes into something else. It's incredible. He is hands down. I mean, just one of the best soundtracks to ever exist is the Star Wars music.
Yeah,
and a lot of the best tracks come from the prequels. Yep. You know, you got Duel of Fates, You got the Battle of Heroes, Across the Stars, all from that trilogy.
Yeah. And especially growing up. So I have two older sisters. One's 6 years older than me. The other one's 8 years older than me. The oldest sister used to play video games with me all the time. So we'd play Battlefront 2 together. And hearing those soundtracks from the prequels is like something that just clicks in my mind, playing those games. Yes. And one of my favorite Star Wars memories is, I don't remember what birthday it was, but we rented out the local movie theater and got an Xbox and played Battlefront 2 split screen on the big movie theater screen, and then had like pizza and stuff like that. And it's still one of my favorite memories, like that involved Star Wars when I was a kid. And I mentioned that on one of my streams, and one of my friends was watching, and he was like, "Oh, I remember like when we went to that birthday party and stuff like that." And it was like, that was like probably 15 years ago. It was over 15 years ago, and it was still something that we shared. And it's crazy to see what Star Wars means to different people. And like when I watch it with my mom, she's like, it's crazy to see you talk about Star Wars because your eyes just light up, and like
yes.
you can tell that you like it. And one day she was sitting there and she just had a big smile on her face, and I was like, what? And she's like, hey, it's nice to see you that happy. Like, yeah.
Wow, I wish I got that instead of the like they're dissociating. They're like, oh Jesus Christ, like just what have I done? Like I just think of that Anakin, what have I done? Oh, that is so sweet. And that's another thing I don't understand is like, it is true when someone is talking about something they love so much, their body language, the way they light up. And let me tell you, I haven't smiled this much in a long time in real life, because it's like, it invokes something in you when you love something so much. And it just breaks my heart to know that there are people out there that are willing to look at someone who loves something, say like the Resistance show, and be like, it sucks. Like the fact that exists is like incredible to me. And I'm with you. Like when I worked at AMC during the time the sequel movies were coming out, and let me tell you, when you hear that music, like if I was out in the hallways, when you hear that opening crawl, oh, it gave me goosebumps, because it's just like, it doesn't matter what it is. And even like that opening, like Clone Wars, it's just like the feelings of nostalgia that come up and the memories that come up is just, you can't put words to it. So that's awesome. That birthday party, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I just think to the time when I didn't have Star Wars in my life, and yes. I was still watching it, and I'd still watch the movies, and I'd play some of the games, but like I didn't have conversations with anybody about it, and I wasn't watching YouTube videos on Star Wars or anything. But then when I got to college, that's when I really got to enjoy Star Wars again.
Yes.
Because I watched it with my friends. We went and saw like The Last Jedi together, and then a couple of years later, even after we had already graduated college, we got together and went to Rise of Skywalker for the premiere together. And we got to finish, we got to finish what is right now considered the end of the Skywalker saga together. And it was really, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things, is sharing it with people who love it too. I remember Rogue One. I went to Rogue One by myself, and I was sitting there, and I didn't go see Solo in the theater.
I didn't either. Well, I worked there. I caught the last 15 minutes, but I haven't watched it all the way through.
Yeah. I didn't go see it in the theater, and it was because it was all the negativity around it. And they were saying there was nothing but production problems. It was actually my last year of college. We were doing finals, and I think I got done with it, and we had our graduation ceremony and everything, and I was just like, I don't think I can go see a Star Wars movie right now. Like I was just too busy. And now that I see Solo, I'm like, man, I really missed out because it's a super fun movie, and it would have been great to see in the theaters. But Rogue One, I went and saw alone, and I was just kind of looking around, like, can I freak out about this with someone? And um, it, it was a pretty sad reason why I went alone, but it it's one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and I started getting the art of books. So I have the art of Fallen Order, art of Rogue One, art of Solo, the Force Awakens, and it just amazes me the the ideas that go into Star Wars, and it you you can honestly learn something every day, and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is that you can honestly have all the time in the world to look at this stuff, and there's still going to be like not enough time to take it all in. So it's like, don't spend time hating on something.
You could not have said that any better. Like, seriously, same thing with that's how I was like when I was like rewatching all these animated shows, and you know, I live alone, and it's like there really is like I have a need to discuss what I just saw, and I really think, and it's amazing, is you probably weren't the only one in that theater that was like, did you see what I just see? Like, you know, like just that finale alone it's such a good film. It's such a good film, and there's no greater high than when you get to talk about Star Wars with someone who knows what you're talking about and like cares, you know, like you know, like I know with Jacob, my good friend, and I went over to his plate because he's gone to Galaxy's Edge, and I got to like hold his lightsaber and see the holocrons, and you know, I was like trying so hard not to get choked up, just like, you know, like seeing that stuff, and you know, I didn't know that you could put the kyber crystals in the holocrons, and you can like hear the Jedi speak, and that Obi-Wan Kenobi message on the holocron, that warning message brings tears to my eyes. Like, it really does. Like, it's so wonderful. Like, when you get to experience something and you just light up and you just want to share it with somebody. It's so cool.
Yeah, and it was really hard because I went to Galaxy's Edge by myself too. And
no way! I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I need someone to talk to, and
it was tough because I was like looking around like like,
like,
but it was really cool because
yeah.
I met some awesome people there, and they asked me where I was from, and it must have been because it was California and 72 degrees, and they could tell how pale I was that I was not from there. But they asked me where I was from, and I talked to them, and these two guys, Olga's Cantina, we were sat next to each other just to make sure that they could fit people in. But they bought me a drink while I was there, and they were super happy that like it was my first time being not only to Galaxy's Edge, but first time being at Disneyland. And
wow.
Yeah. Yep. We didn't like my mom's family. They used to travel a lot and do stuff. They used to go to California a lot, but like I haven't traveled much within the United States. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to Galaxy's Edge. And I went like 5 days before it closed down. So it was the perfect time. Everything was still business as usual. I got to build my lightsaber. I got to build the droid, their purple BB unit, but it was so much fun.
I love the little BB-8s, but I hear they break. So
yeah, I don't play with it much. I take it out every once in a while with the remote and let my niece play with it just because it's super fun. But yeah, I had so much fun, and I want to go back with my niece and my mom, and but I don't think that's going to happen for a while because it's going to take a while for things to open up, and then trying to get to go to Disneyland or Disney World when everything starts to open up is going to be absolutely nuts because people who had planned on doing it for a long time and then they couldn't, and then now it'll be messy.
It's funny you say it, because I remember when I got news that this book thing was happening, I remember thinking, I really hope the parks are back to normal when this comes out, because that's how I want to celebrate. Like, I want to celebrate by being at Galaxy's Edge, because I never got the chance to experience it. I planned on it before, the shutdown happened. But that's exactly how I want to celebrate, is to be somewhere where I know, like, I love Disneyland, even like, I've been there more times than I can count. But to have that Galaxy's Edge aspect to it just adds a whole other layer. And I just know, like, I'll step in there and I'll just be bawling, because it's like, I mean, it's a literal happy place. It is a haven for people like us. And it makes me so happy to know that there were people who were just like bringing you on and, like, buying you a drink. And it just goes to show that there's good people out there. I mean, there really is. I think we lose that. Like, there are good people who just look out for each other, and this community just definitely shows that, because we're all in this fandom for a reason. And we want to take care of each other because we know what it's like for people to look at us and be like,
yeah, yep.
He's embarrassed by my noises. Oh yeah, like, I remember I don't think I've ever made as much noise as I did when I saw Force Awakens. Just the reactions of seeing everything for the first time after so many years. And I just realized, as we were talking about it, Episode 9 was the last movie I saw in the theaters. That was the last movie I ever saw, like, physically in a movie theater. Yep. That's so crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been over a year. Like, it's nuts.
My noises. I have a plush bee. I love these little droids. Like, I love BD1 so much from Fallen Order. I love BB-8. The droids they're just that added layer. They're like the icing on the cake. I love them. I love the little droids.
Yeah, and it's sad because Dio from Rise of Skywalker gets hate because they're like, he's just a marketing thing, and it's like, but he's so.
How can you hate on the droids? Yeah. They're kind of like, when you think about it, they are the pets. People don't have pets in Star Wars per se, even though there are animals and like cats and whatnot. But like, they're the companions. Like, how can you hate on the droids? I don't care what era they're from. I think they're neat. Like, they're amazing. That's one of my favorite jokes, is like, the Star Wars franchise is just three trilogies of C-3PO being bullied.
I love the droids, and I was surprised when they announced the other Disney Plus shows that they didn't do the droids animated show.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get it eventually, and whenever anybody comes over to our house, like family members, and my mom was like, you should see some of the stuff that he has in his room now. I have started showing them the vintage Star Wars R2-D2 and C-3PO that I have, because they're like, you can tell it's a really old toy, and it's like, yeah, I love them.
And that's what's beautiful about collecting, is you can have people who aren't Star Wars fans, and they take one look at your stuff and they're like, whoa, that's so cool. Especially when you get to that, like, museum type collection. It's so cool. Like, I really want to collect all those legacy sabers. Like, that's what I would love, and just to have them out. And I'm sure people would just get a real kick out of just seeing them.
Absolutely.
After, like, the one of Dio. Yeah, I thought he was sweet. And, he definitely had that, like, abused puppy story. Like, he didn't have a good master, but they're like, if you could have your own droid, what would it be? See, this is tough, because it's like, there's not a droid I don't like. Like, I love the R2 units. I love the BB-8. I love the BD little droid that Cal has. Gosh, man. But I think if I was at Galaxy's Edge, I would do what you did and probably make like a purple BB unit or an R2. I just love the droids, and I think if I was like an actual Jedi, I would love something like a little BD1, like a little like companion just sits on your shoulder, you know, and like helps you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough question. That's as tough as having to pick one character you love when it's like my arm is going to be like a temple of the ones I love.
Chris made a good point. Things held off because of the new droid series. Yep, that is a good point because it's titled the same exact thing. I need to get Fallen Order. I'll let my hubby play because I'm so uncoordinated with games. It is a tricky game too.
Oh yeah, and to be completely honest with you, like I've never like actually played the game myself, but I watched the cutscenes, and
Yeah.
it is like a full length movie. It's almost like 3 hours long, and it's incredible, beautiful, beautiful game. I would love to look at that art book that you have, and I just can't get over how good it is. And I think we're getting a sequel too, and I'm just so pumped. I love it. They did it. They really did their homework. I was like amazed how many Easter eggs and how they like just paid so much attention to what already exists and create characters. See, a Fallen Order is a testament to how well the sequels really could have been. You can
Yeah.
introduce people to brand new characters that don't have a stake in the Skywalker saga, and it can be successful. Like
Yes.
that, I really think, I don't think they were expecting it to be as successful, but man, it is such a good story. It is such a good story.
Yeah. Very too many controls and such. Yeah. Chris said a gonk droid. Well, we're almost at 3.5 hours.
I know, like I didn't even realize how I look at it.
I really want to. I was going to start winding things down, and I am really looking forward to some of the discussions we have coming up. We haven't made an official announcement on that yet, but I'm super excited for it. I'm so happy for you with your book.
Thank you.
I'm guessing that my copy will be here anytime soon, and I'm so excited to read it and to show it to my niece too. I got a second copy for her, and I was going to get one. My other sister was home, and I was going to get a copy for her to take so she could have it in her classroom as well. But she left before I could do that, so I'll probably get her one and then send it to her. So it's super awesome to see that you had one of those goals accomplished, and I'm sorry that you can't celebrate it right now with Galaxy's Edge necessarily.
Get there.
You're such an awesome person, and I think everybody in the chat,
I'm like so touched. Like I've never felt more cool in my entire life. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, they are so excited to hear you on Paul's channel, and they were really excited to hear, some of your stories and everything. And it's pretty great to see how supportive this community is. But I just thank you again for coming on the show, and congrats on the book. I just can't say that enough.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm telling you, this has been the thing I've been looking forward to all week. Even yesterday at work, I was like, I cannot wait for the stream. Like, I'm just so excited. Thank you so much. I'm so incredibly honored. To all of you in the comments too, and especially if you've stuck it out the entire 3.5 hours with us. Like, thank you so much. Thank you. I can't thank you all enough.
Yeah, and thanks everybody in the chat for questions and the support. And there's Paul right there.
I'll be seeing him soon.
When you've got people like this in the community, we love to support others that are truly in love with the things that we love as well. And I think that's why people are so supportive of you. Is when we hear you talk, we can tell that like it brings you joy. And once again, I'm super excited to read the book.
Thank you guys. Loved it. Yeah, thank you. You guys are amazing for sticking out with us.
And I have it linked in the description of the video too, and in the chat. It's the link to the Amazon store for Bailey's book. It does sound like you can get it from the UK. Paul from Paul's Collectibles sounds like he's going to be the guy if you want to try to get a hold of Paul for a signed copy of Bailey's book. It's super awesome, and I know Salacious was really excited about it. John's been excited about it. Shabby, it's awesome.
More. Yeah. I mean, whenever you feel like doing a stream, Brandon, let me know. Like, I'm more than happy to do it.
Awesome. I can't wait. And super excited for Bad Batch and to bounce ideas off each other. And, you know, who knows, we could do something with Book of Boba Fett or Star Wars Visions when it comes out. And if you do give High Republic a chance, I'd love to have you on and
oh, absolutely. We can trade books. I read those, and I give you like these MedStar books.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, thank you for sharing your creativity with us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up, and I want to thank everybody in the chat again. That was super fun, Bailey, and
I had a blast.
And it sounds like you've gotten a whole bunch of new friends in the chat, and
yes, love it. Friends of the Force, as I always like to say.
I'm super excited to see what you have planned with writing. I can't wait to see if you have a Star Wars book with your name on it someday in the future. And
oh God, yeah, that would just be great. I mean, I'm telling you, these stories exist. They live in my Google Drive. I just hope to have the opportunity to send it for review, because it is quite the process to be a Star Wars author. And the first step is to get your name out there, and this book has to do well for anything to happen. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we can help support in any way, and we'll definitely be mentioning the book to our friends and ordering extra copies and stuff like that. So thanks again for being on the show, and everybody in the chat, thank you, and may the force be with you.
Be with you.
And yub nub.